Chapter 1858. What? General Dugu was attacked by a group of assassins in the southern part of the city. The shopkeeper of the Chu ironware shop, Kong Chang'an, was ambushed by 3 black-clothed men on his way back. At the same time, in the Wang clan's ancestral home, after listening to Bai Qing's report, Wang Yu abruptly stood up from his seat, his face ashen. The Wang clan had been in Taiyuan for many years, but this was the first time someone had slapped them in the face. This subordinate is incompetent. Patriarch, please punish me. Bai Qing and the other Wang clan covert guards got down on one knee and bowed. Where's Cheng Wu? Wang Yu walked up to Bai Qing with his hands behind his back and asked coldly. Patriarch, the Grand Commander received the news and went to the southern part of the city to rescue General Dugu. We brought Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an's corpses back first. Bai Qing replied in full detail. Quickly bring people to the southern part of the city. Wang Yu was silent for a moment. Then he ordered, in addition, bring people to the provincial governor's residence and inform Provincial Governor Wang. Wang Yu knew very well that this was not the time to hold these people accountable. The most important thing now was to ensure Dugu Xian's safety. If something happened to Dugu Xian, then the Wang family would not be able to clear their name even if they jumped into the Yellow River. Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an had been found and escorted back by the Wang clan, but one of them had been killed right under the eyes of the Wang clan guards. Logically speaking, the Wang clan had to bear the main responsibility. And if something happened to Dugu Xian, the commander of the Imperial Army in Taiyuan City, the Wang clan would not be able to escape responsibility. After all, who told the Wang clan to be the local tyrant of Taiyuan City? Yes, Patriarch. Bai Qing and the others left with the order. Inside the room, Wang Yu paced around the hall with his hands behind his back. Princess Tang, who was sitting to the side, frowned and said, Dugu Xian was attacked, and the key suspect they were looking for was ambushed. Who are these people? How dare they commit murder in public in Taiyuan City, and even make a move against our Wang clan? Wang Yu paused and sighed. No matter where they come from, since they dared to behave so atrociously in Taiyuan City, this old man will definitely ferret them out. Moreover, I'm afraid that this group of people's goal isn't so simple. Their true goal should be... At this point, Wang Yu turned to look in the northwest direction. That was the post house in Taiyuan City. Li Tai and the other Yanhuang college teachers and students were staying there. Princess Tang naturally understood what Wang Yu was trying to say. Her heart sank slightly as she revealed a worried expression. The other party wants to harm Qin Ke. In this way, I'm afraid we won't be able to return to Sui province for the time being. Speaking of which, she and Li Tai had returned to their ancestral home from Qizhou. Originally, they had planned to settle Wang Rinbiao's matter and then immediately return to Suizhou. However, Li Tai was her grandnephew. Whether it was due to emotion or reason, whether it was public or private, she had to look after Li Tai. After all, this was Taiyuan, the territory of her husband's family. We definitely can't return to Suizhou for the time being. Nothing must happen to King Wei and the others in Taiyuan City. Right now, he had to see if Cheng Wu could save Dugu Xian and capture 1 or 2 of them alive. From the looks of it, we are in the open while the enemy is in the dark. Moreover, the enemy knows everything about us like the back of his hand. We must grasp the enemy's situation as soon as possible. Wang Yu sternly said, his eyes blazing. As the saying went, know thyself and know thy enemy, and thou shalt be victorious in every battle. Although the Wang clan was powerful, if they knew nothing about the enemy's situation, they would be constantly on the defensive. This was something that Wang Yu did not wish to see. Princess Tang silently nodded. Reporting, Patriarch, the Grand Marshal has rescued General Dugu. Hurried footsteps came from outside the room. Soon after, Bai Qing, who had left earlier, ran into the hall and cupped his fist to Wang Yu. Wang Yu, who was anxiously pacing back and forth in the hall, suddenly had his eyes light up. He turned around and said with a face full of joy, Good. That's great. Where's Cheng Wu now? And how is General Dugu? Is he injured? Although he and Princess Tang had analyzed that the enemy's target was likely Li Tai, they had no good ideas. After all, the heavy responsibility of protecting Li Tai's group could only be shouldered by Dugu Xian and the other Imperial Army soldiers. The Wang clan could not shoulder this responsibility. Thus, nothing could happen to Dugu Xian. Moreover, no matter what, Dugu Xian was the commander of the Northern Imperial Army. If he were to die in Taiyuan City for no reason, no one would be able to bear Li Er's wrath. After all, the Northern Imperial Army was Li Er's trump card, and the commander of this army represented Li Er to a certain extent. Chapter 1859. Whoever could cure Dugu Xian would be rewarded with 3,000 strings of cash. Hearing this, the doctors who had yet to take Dugu Xian's pulse froze, their breathing quickening. Doctors were humans too, and they had emotions and desires. Almost no one would not be tempted by a reward like 3,000 strings of cash. After all, that was a fortune that could allow them to live comfortably for several lifetimes. However, the prerequisite for all of this was to cure Dugu Xian. This old man is quite knowledgeable in detoxification. May I take a look at General Dugu? Just as everyone was about to give it a try, an old man stroked his beard and said, "Old sir, please." Dugu Feng hurriedly gestured for the old man to go ahead. The old man nodded, and then he slowly walked over to the bed. He first took Dugu Xian's pulse, and then he looked at the wounds on Dugu Xian's arms and back. His expression instantly changed when he saw them. Dugu Feng hurriedly asked, "Old sir, what poison was inflicted on my brother? Is there an antidote?" Everyone in the room, including the doctors, turned to look at the old man. Although the doctors could tell that Dugu Xian was poisoned, they didn't know what kind of poison Dugu Xian was poisoned with. This was also the main reason why they couldn't do anything about it. After all, if they did not even know what poison the patient was inflicted with, how could they possibly cure it? The old man calmly returned Dugu Xian's body to its original position on the bed, then said with a serious expression, "General Dugu was inflicted with 3 poisons. The first is a knockout powder, which should have been inhaled through the nose and mouth, causing General Dugu to be unconscious. As for the second poison, if I'm not wrong, it should come from the devil's snare flower in India. Moreover, it's taken from the devil's snare flower seed and not its petals, so it's more poisonous. The person who injured General Dugu should have smeared this poison on their weapon. Those who are poisoned will first feel dizzy and have a headache, followed by tachycardia, hallucinations, delirium, and convulsions. If the poison isn't detoxified as soon as possible, it will take at most 2 days to half a day for the poisoned person to slowly die in their sleep. The third poison is the strong poison hook kiss, which should have been smeared on the weapon. The victim will first feel dizzy, then have their heartbeat slow down and then speed up. Their limbs will also feel cold. This poison is extremely strong, and if the antidote is not cured within 2 hours, the victim will definitely die. Not even a deity can save him. Hook kiss, also known as heartbreak grass, humang vine, etc., is highly poisonous. The moment the old man finished speaking, the doctors in the room were shocked. They could not help but whisper, "What? Devil's snare and hook kiss? Both of them are rare poisons in the world." That's right. No wonder I didn't see it earlier. It turns out that General Dugu was poisoned by these 2 poisons. I'm afraid he's done for. Sigh. These 2 poisons, I'm afraid no one in this world. I don't know if half-immortal Lu can cure them. He is an expert in detoxification. Hearing these people's private discussions, even if Dugu Feng didn't know how to treat illnesses and save people, he still knew his brother's current situation. However, he still looked at the old man unwillingly and asked, "Old mister, since you already know what kind of poison my brother is suffering from, then you must have a way to cure my brother's poison, right? Don't worry, as long as you can cure my brother, the Dugu family is willing to take out 3,000 strings to express our gratitude." When Dugu Feng said this, the doctors standing at the side immediately felt uncomfortable. What was the most uncomfortable thing in the world? There was money to be earned, but he couldn't earn it himself. The old man bitterly laughed, shook his head, and said, "The people of Taiyuan City call me half-immortal Lu, But this old man is just a mortal with a mortal body. How can I be considered a half immortal? I'm afraid that only a true immortal can cure General Dugu's poison. This old man is really powerless. I hope that your highness and young general can find someone else as soon as possible. Don't delay General Dugu's treatment. Hearing this, the doctors in the room were relieved, but also sighed with some regret. Even half-immortal Lu can't cure the devil's snare and Hook's kiss poison. In order not to delay Dugu Xian's treatment, half-immortal Lu cupped his hands and left. The other doctors knew that their medical skills were not as good as half-immortal Lu's, so they also left the room. Perhaps only Mr. Gong's son can cure this poison. When a doctor walked out of the room, he couldn't help but sigh softly. Mr. Gong's son? Which Mr. Gong's son? When Dugu Feiying, who was in despair, heard this, it was as if he had grabbed onto a life-saving straw. He quickly wanted to chase out of the room, but when he went out, the doctors were already far away. He pulled over the constable of the provincial government office, standing at the door, and asked, "Who is this Mr. Gong's son they were talking about? Can he cure the poison in my brother's body?" Chapter 1860. 1 coin of skullcap root, 1 coin of gold thread, 2 coins of philodendron, 1 coin of licorice, 1 coin of mung bean, 1 coin of honeysuckle, half a coin of forsythia. Inside the Taiyuan courier station, Gong's son Liang picked up a brush and wrote 2 prescriptions on a piece of paper without hesitation. The alchemy apprentice who came in with him frowned, but due to Gong's son Liang's prestige, he didn't say anything. After a while, Gong's son Liang finally put away the brush and handed the prescriptions to the medicine boy, saying, "Xiao Bao, take these 2 prescriptions and quickly go back to the medicine hall to get the herbs. Let your senior brother pick the best herbs. Go and come back quickly." "Oh, yes, master." The medicine boy wanted to say something but hesitated, but in the end, he took the prescriptions and turned to leave. Dugu Feiying stepped forward and grabbed the medicine boy, saying, "This place is not close to the rejuvenation hall. I will ride a horse and take you there. This way, we can save a lot of time." He did not forget that before Master Lu left, he said that if the hook kiss poison in Dugu Xian's body was not cured within 2 hours, he would die without a doubt. Although Gong's son Liang in front of him had promised to save Dugu Xian, Dugu Feiying did not dare to risk his brother's life. In fact, since Gong's son Liang could boast, then the 2 hours were invalid. Even if the medicine boy could not come back within 2 hours, he had his own way to ensure that Dugu Xian would not die. The medicine boy looked back at Gong's son Liang and saw that Gong's son Liang was smiling without saying anything, so he nodded in agreement. "Thank you, General." After saying that, the 2 walked out of the post house together. Inside the room, Gong's son Liang opened the medicine box and took out a wooden box with 24 gold needles. He waved to Iron Egg, who was standing beside Li Tai, and said, "Kid, come and help this old man lift this general up and take off his clothes. This old man wants to give him the needles." Li Tai frowned and complained in his heart. Is this old man still holding a grudge? Is it why he's called Iron Egg and not me? In fact, this was completely Li Tai thinking too much. Although Gong's son Liang had an eccentric temperament, he was already 70 to 80 years old. His tolerance was not small to the point of being angry with a child. The reason why he called for Iron Egg to come over and help instead of Li Tai was because in terms of physique, Iron Egg was stronger than Li Tai. Moreover, Li Tai was the king of Wei. Even if he did not put him in his eyes, he could not so blatantly order him around. Otherwise, Li Tai's subordinates would jump out and accuse him. He did not want to cause trouble. "Oh, Iron Egg," who was suddenly called out, was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he quickly walked forward and helped Dugu Xian up from the bed. He also took off the latter's shirt. Suddenly, Dugu Xian's strong muscles and the wounds on his body that had only been treated were exposed to the air. "This old man is going to perform acupuncture. I need some peace and quiet. The fewer people in the room, the better." Gong's son Liang took out a golden needle from the needle box. He did not immediately insert it, but turned to Li Tai and the others. Li Tai frowned, but he did not say anything. He waved at the guards in the room and said, "All of you leave." "Understood." Although the Imperial Guard were worried about Dugu Xian's injuries and Li Tai's safety, they still left. Apart from Dugu Xian and Gong Sun Liang, only Li Tai, Iron Egg, and Wang Yu were left in the room. As for Qin Huaiyu, Meng Wenhao, Mo Chue, and the others, they were at the Longshan Boy Temple. After learning of Dugu Xian's assassination, Li Tai did not stop their plan to build a telegraph relay station. On one hand, he arranged for Qin Huaiyu, Mo Chue, and the others to proceed as planned. On the other hand, he and Dugu Feiying rushed back to the courier station to rescue Dugu Xian. Seeing that the room was finally spacious, Gong Sun Liang nodded in satisfaction. He held his breath and focused his mind. His aura suddenly changed, becoming serious and serious. He was like a completely different person from before. Then, he raised the golden needle and inserted it into the Tianto acupoint on Dugu Xian's chest. The speed of his insertion was as fast as lightning. It was not a speed that an old man of his age could possess. Then, Gong Sun Liang took out the golden needles from the wooden box and inserted them into Dugu Xian's Xuanji acupoint, Shenzong acupoint, Huagai acupoint, Shanzhong acupoint, and Jiwei acupoint. The 6 golden needles stood proudly on Dugu Xian's chest. Immediately afterward, Gong Sun Liang placed his right hand an inch above the 6 golden needles. The 6 golden needles seemed to be driven by an invisible force and began to vibrate rhythmically. A few drops of sweat appeared on Gong Sun Liang's forehead at this time, controlling the needles with qi. Who would have thought that this frail old man in front of them was actually a martial artist? He could even control the needles with qi? Iron Egg, who was closest to Gong Sun Liang, could not help but widen his eyes in shock. Obviously, he did not expect Gong Sun Liang to practice Nigong. Looking at Dugu Xian's chest, the chest that was originally covered in black gas was gradually returning to its normal color. After a while, Gong Sun Liang let out a sigh of relief and put down his palm. The golden needles naturally stopped vibrating, but the old man had no intention of withdrawing the needles. Taking advantage of this gap, Iron Egg could not help but ask, "Mr. Gong Sun Liang, did you use qi to control the needles? Could it be that Mr. Gong Sun Liang also practiced Nigong?" Iron Egg was also a martial artist. Although his martial arts realm was not high, he could still clearly feel that Gong Sun Liang had transferred his qi into Dugu Xian's acupoints through the golden needles. That was why he asked this question. Gong Sun Liang was sitting on the couch with his eyes closed at this time. When he heard Iron Egg's question, he opened his eyes and looked at Iron Egg with interest. Then he smiled and said, "Oh, I didn't know that you were also a martial artist. Moreover, your eyesight and knowledge are good. At such a young age, you actually know how to control the needles with qi. Who is your master?" Although Gong Sun Liang did not directly answer Iron Egg's question, he tacitly agreed with Iron Egg's guess. Hearing this, Li Tai, who was standing to the side, widened his eyes in shock. Although he was not a martial artist and had never practiced medicine, he had still heard of using qi to control needles. Previously, when Li Gang was injured by Wu Jia, his life was in danger. It was Sun Simiao, Li Zixuan, and Xian Qing, these 3 top medical masters, who worked together to control the needles with qi, that pulled Li Gang back from the gates of hell. Li Tai never expected that on this trip to Taiyuan, he would meet a master like Sun Simiao, who could control needles with qi. At this moment, Li Tai didn't dare underestimate Gong Sun Liang in the slightest. Iron Egg thought for a moment and answered truthfully, "My master is the current Marquis of Yong, and Li Zixuan, who is also the Yamacho of Yanhuang College. My master and Daoist son of the college both know how to control needles with qi, and I've seen both of them before, so I could recognize them." "Oh." Gong Sun Liang let out a long "oh." It was unknown whether he had really heard of Li Zixuan or was pretending to have heard of him. After a moment, he asked, "The Daoist son you were talking about, is it Sun Simiao? He actually went to Yanhuang College?" Li Tai couldn't help but say at this time, "Daoist son is naturally the doctor's son that everyone praises. He is now in the medical school of our college. In addition to Dr. Sun, our medical school has many masters with superb medical skills. Even many respected doctors from the Imperial Medical Department have joined our medical school. In time, our medical school will definitely be able to cultivate many students with superb medical skills. As a student of Yanwang College, naturally, he was proud of Yanwang College. Moreover, Li Tai had another intention in saying this, which was to make Gong's son Liang interested in Yanwang College. If he could directly attract Gong's son Liang to join Yanwang College, that would be even better. He believed that Li Zixuan would definitely remember his merit. After all, although the words of this old man in front of him were not very pleasing, he still had some real skills. Oh, Yanwang College. Gong's son Liang smacked his lips and didn't say anything more. After adjusting his breath for a moment, he stood up and said to Wang Yu, "This old man just used a golden needle to protect the general's heart meridian to ensure that the poison won't enter his lungs in a short period of time. The poison of datura is relatively mild in nature, but it is like a gangrene attached to the bone and is extremely difficult to eradicate. The poison of hook kiss is extremely poisonous, like a flood or a fierce beast. These two poisons, under normal circumstances, are difficult to achieve the effect of fighting poison with poison. However, the two medicines this old man prescribed are used to induce the two poisons in the general's body and balance the power of the two poisons so that they can be used to fight poison with poison. After Xiao Bao brings the herbs here, boil the medicine near the post house and then feed it to the general. This old man will administer the needles from the side to ensure that the two poisons will not harm the general's heart meridian." Hearing this, whether it was Wang Yu, Li Tai, or Iron Egg, all of them gasped. Under normal circumstances, when a patient was poisoned, the first thing a doctor would do was to detoxify the patient. However, this old man in front of them not only did not detoxify Duguexin, but also directly used the power of the medicinal stone to induce the poison to act up in advance for fear that it would take too long for the poison to take effect. This kind of medicine was simply too radical and too bold, wasn't it? Wang Yu looked at Gong's son Liang with a strange expression and then asked tentatively, "Mr. Gong's son, are you confident?" Gong's son Liang smiled confidently and said, "Of course. Didn't this old man say at the beginning that I have a 90% chance of eliminating the poison in the general's body?" Hearing this, everyone was speechless again. At the very beginning, Gong's son Liang did say this, but at that time, this old man didn't even take Duga Xian's pulse. Everyone knew that it was just a formality and couldn't be taken seriously, but who would have thought that this old man would actually take it seriously? Could it be that no matter what kind of person he treated, he would say that he had a 90% chance? Or was it that for him, 90% and 10% were almost the same, with the probability of failure? At this moment, there was a knock on the door, followed by someone saying, "Reporting to Your Highness, the Bing Province Provincial Governor requests an audience." Chapter 1861. There's no need for you to follow me. The Imperial Army will be responsible for my safety. You're the provincial governor of a province and have a lot of work to do. I don't want Bing Province to fall into chaos because of me. I can't bear the responsibility. In Taiyuan Post Station, Li Tai hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not speak ill of Wang Liao Yuan, but he still rejected Wang Liao Yuan's good intentions. After all, Wang Liao Yuan was the highest official in Bing Province. It was unrealistic to have him by his side 24 hours a day. Wang Liao Yuan was relieved to hear Li Tai's tone soften. He looked at Duguexan on the bed and asked, "May I ask how General Dugu's injuries are? Do you need me to find a famous doctor in the city?" "Ha! There's no need for that. Although General Dugu's injuries are serious, with Mr. Gong's son here, he will be fine." Li Tai smiled faintly. After seeing Gong's son Liang's medical skills, Li Tai's trust in the old man increased. Although Gong's son Liang's explanation of the detoxification process was shocking in Taiyuan City, only Gong's son Liang was worthy of Li Tai's trust. "Mr. Gong's son? Gong's son Liang?" Hearing Li Tai's words, Wang Liao Yuan noticed Gong's son Liang sitting cross-legged on the side. As the provincial governor of Bing Province, Wang Liao Yuan naturally knew of such a person in Taiyuan City. At the same time, he had also heard of Gongsun Liang's strange temper and his treatment rules. He only sat in the hall and did not make house calls. But now, Gongsun Liang had appeared in this post station. What was going on? Wang Liaoyuan's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. But when he saw Wang Yu, who was stroking his beard and smiling silently at the side, the bewilderment in his eyes instantly vanished, and it was replaced by a wisp of relief. Since Mr. Gongsun is here, General Dugu will definitely be fine. Wang Liaoyuan nodded after a moment of shock. Master, I brought the medicine back. At this time, Dugu Feng came in with Gongsun Liang's little apprentice. The little apprentice carried a few large and small oil paper packages and said to Gongsun Liang, who was sitting cross-legged on the couch. Gongsun Liang suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, "Take it to the kitchen immediately. Little Bao, decoct the medicine yourself. First, use martial fire to decoct it for a quarter of an hour, then slowly decoct it for half an hour. Then, bring it over and feed it to this general." "Yes, master." The little medicine apprentice accepted the order. Dugu Feng quickly said, "Let's go. I'll take you to the kitchen of the post house." "Your Majesty, look. Today's the Tang Daily's headline is very interesting." After the morning court, Li Er, who had just finished dealing with the court officials, rubbed the space between his eyebrows and came to the Lizheng Hall in the west court of the imperial palace. When Empress Zhongsun saw Li Er come, she first bowed and then had a maid bring the newspaper she had just read. She handed it to Li Er and said with a smile. She also saw that Li Er looked tired and wanted to let Li Er read the newspaper and relax. "Oh, what news? I'll take a look." Hearing what Empress Zhongsun said, Li Er was really interested. He sat on the couch and reached out to take the newspaper from Empress Zhongsun. He glanced at the eye-catching headline on the front page of the newspaper. "The cutest person? Li Yu? Was it this girl who wrote the news again?" After seeing the headline and the author of the news, Li Er couldn't help but whisper. He had a deep impression of Li Yu, not only because he had personally made Li Yu the gold medal reporter of the Tang Daily, but also because almost every issue of the Tang Daily had news written by Li Yu. The most important thing was that after the victory of the Battle of Guan City, Li Yu entered the palace to accept the reward. At that time, Li Yu gave Li Er a very familiar feeling. Li Er had never forgotten it. Empress Zhongsun smiled at this time and said, "Yes, it was written by Li Yu. This concubine feels that this lass is quite smart and intelligent. There's no need to follow me. My safety is the responsibility of the imperial army. You are a provincial governor and busy with government affairs. I don't want the entire Bing province to be in a mess because of me. I can't bear this responsibility." Taiyuan Post Station. Li Tai hesitated for a moment. In the end, he didn't speak ill of Wang Liaoyuan, but he still rejected Wang Liaoyuan's good intentions. After all, Wang Liaoyuan was the highest official in Bing province. It was unrealistic to have him by his side 24 hours a day. Hearing Li Tai's tone soften, Wang Liaoyuan couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. At this time, he looked at Dugu Xan on the bed and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask how General Dugu's injuries are? Do you need this official to find a famous doctor in the city to treat him?" There's no need for that. Although General Dugu's injuries are serious, with Mr. Gongsun here, he will be able to turn the situation into safety." Li Tai smiled faintly and said, after seeing Gongsun Liang's treatment methods, Li Tai couldn't help but trust this old man a little more. Although Gongsun Liang's words about the detoxification process were shocking in Taiyuan City, perhaps only Gongsun Liang was worthy of Li Tai's trust. "Mr. Gongsun? Gongsun Liang?" Hearing Li Tai's words, Wang Liaoyuan noticed Gongsun Liang sitting cross-legged on the side. As the provincial governor of Bing province, Wang Liaoyuan naturally knew of such a person in Taiyuan City. At the same time, he had also heard of Gongsun Liang's strange temper and treatment rules. He only sat in the hall and never visited patients. But now, Gongsun Liang appeared in this post station. What was going on? A trace of doubt flashed in Wang Liaoyuan's eyes at this time. But when he saw Wang Yu stroking his beard and smiling silently, the The doubt in his eyes dissipated and was replaced by a touch of relief. Since Mr. Gongsun is here, General Dugu will definitely be able to turn the situation into safety. After being stunned for a moment, Wang Liaoyuan nodded. Master, I've brought the medicine back. At this moment, Dugu Feng pushed open the door from outside with Gongsun Liang's little medicine boy. The little medicine boy held a few large and small oil paper packages and said to Gongsun Liang, who was sitting cross-legged on the couch. Gongsun Liang suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, "Take it to the kitchen immediately. Xiaobao, boil the medicine yourself. First use martial fire to fry it for 15 minutes, then slowly fry it for half an hour. After that, bring it over and feed it to this general." "Yes, master." The little medicine boy obeyed the order. Dugu Feng hurriedly said, "Let's go. I'll take you to the back kitchen of the post station." "Your Majesty, look, today's Tang Daily's headline looks very interesting." After the morning court, Li, who had just finished dealing with the court officials, rubbed the space between his eyebrows and came to the Li Zheng Hall in the west court of the imperial palace. When Empress Zhongsun saw Li coming, she first bowed and then had a maid bring the newspaper she had just read. She handed it to Li and said with a smile. She also saw Li's tired face and wanted to let Li read the newspaper to relax. "Oh, what news? I'll take a look." Hearing Empress Zhongsun's words, Li was really interested. He sat on the couch and reached out to take the newspaper handed over by Empress Zhongsun. His eyes swept over the eye-catching headline on the front page of the newspaper. The cutest person? Liu? Was it this girl who wrote the news again? After seeing the headline and the author of the news, Li couldn't help but whisper. He had a deep impression of Liu, not only because he had personally made Liu the gold medal reporter of the Tang Daily, but also because almost every issue of the Tang Daily had news written by Liu. The most important thing was that after the victory of the Battle of Guan City, Liu entered the palace to accept the reward. At that time, Liu gave Li a very familiar feeling. Li had never forgotten it. Empress Zhongsun smiled at this time and said, "Yes, it was written by Liu. This concubine feels that this lass is quite smart and intelligent. There's no need to follow me. My safety is the responsibility of the imperial army. You're a provincial governor and busy with government affairs. I don't want the entire Bing province to be in a mess because of me. I can't bear this responsibility." Taiyuan Post Station. Li Tai hesitated for a moment. In the end, he didn't speak ill of Wang Liaoyuan, but he still rejected Wang Liaoyuan's good intentions. After all, Wang Liaoyuan was the highest official in Bing province. It was unrealistic to have him by his side 24 hours a day. Hearing Li Tai's tone soften, Wang Liaoyuan couldn't help but sigh in relief. At this time, he looked at Dugu Xan on the bed and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask how General Dugu's injuries are? Do you need this official to find a famous doctor in the city to treat him?" There's no need for that. Although General Dugu's injuries are serious, with Mr. Gongsun here, he will be able to turn the situation into safety." Li Tai smiled faintly and said. After seeing Gongsun Liang's treatment methods, Li Tai couldn't help but trust this old man a little more. Although Gongsun Liang's words about the detoxification process were shocking, in Taiyuan City, perhaps only Gongsun Liang was worthy of Li Tai's trust. "Mr. Gongsun? Gongsun Liang?" Hearing Li Tai's words, Wang Liaoyuan noticed Gongsun Liang sitting cross-legged on the side. As the provincial governor of Bing province, Wang Liaoyuan naturally knew of such a person in Taiyuan City. At the same time, he also heard of Gongsun Liang's strange temper and treatment rules. He only sat in the hall and didn't make house calls. But now, Gongsun Liang appeared in this post station. What was going on? A trace of doubt flashed in Wang Liaoyuan's eyes at this time. But when he saw Wang Yu stroking his beard and smiling silently, the doubt in his eyes dissipated and was replaced by a touch of relief. Since Mr. Gongsun is here, General Dugu will definitely be able to turn the situation into safety. After being stunned for a moment, Wang Liaoyuan nodded. "Master, I brought the medicine back." At this time, Dugu Fang pushed open the door from outside with Gongsun Liang's little medicine boy. The little medicine boy held a few big and small oil paper packages and said to Gongsun Liang, who was sitting cross-legged on the couch. Gongsun Liang suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, "Take it to the kitchen immediately. Xiaobao, boil the medicine yourself. First use martial fire to fry it for 15 minutes, then slowly fry it for half an hour. After that, bring it over and feed it to this general." "Yes, master." The little medicine boy naturally obeyed. Dugu Fang hurriedly said, "Let's go. I'll take you to the back kitchen of the post station." "Your Majesty, look, today's Tang Daily's headline looks very interesting." After the morning court, Li Er, who had just finished dealing with the court officials, rubbed the space between his eyebrows and came to the Li Zheng Hall in the west court of the imperial palace. When Empress Zhongsun saw Li Er coming, she first bowed and then had a maid bring the newspaper she had just read. She handed it to Li Er and said with a smile. She also saw Li Er's tired face and wanted to let Li Er read the newspaper to relax. "Oh, what news? I'll take a look." Hearing Empress Zhongsun's words, Li Er was really interested. He sat on the couch and reached out to take the newspaper handed over by Empress Zhongsun. His eyes swept over the eye-catching headline on the front page of the newspaper. "The cutest person? Li Yu? Was it this girl who wrote the news again?" After seeing the headline and the author of the news, Li Er couldn't help but whisper. He had a deep impression of Li Yu, not only because he had personally appointed Li Yu as the gold medal reporter of Tang Daily, but also because almost every issue of Tang Daily had news written by Li Yu. The most important thing was that after the victory of the Battle of Guan City, Li Yu entered the palace to receive the reward. At that time, Li Yu gave Li Er a very familiar feeling. Li Er had never forgotten it. Empress Zhongsun smiled and said, "Yes, it was written by Li Yu. This concubine feels that this lass is quite smart and intelligent. There's no need to follow me. My safety will be taken care of by the imperial guards. You're also a provincial governor and busy with government affairs. I don't want the entire Bing province to be in a mess because of me. I can't bear this responsibility." Taiyuan Post Station. Li Tai hesitated for a moment. In the end, he didn't speak ill of Wang Liaoyuan, but he still rejected Wang Liaoyuan's good intentions. After all, Wang Liaoyuan was the highest official in the entire Bing province. It was unrealistic to have him by his side 24 hours a day. Hearing Li Tai's tone soften, Wang Liaoyuan couldn't help but sigh in relief. At this time, he looked at Dugu Xen on the bed and couldn't help but ask, "May I ask how General Dugu's injuries are? Do you need this official to find a famous doctor in the city to treat him?" "Huh, there's no need for that. Although General Dugu's injuries are serious, with Mr. Gongsun here, he will definitely be able to turn the situation into safety." Li Tai smiled faintly and said, after seeing Gongsun Liang's medical skills, Li Tai couldn't help but trust this old man a little more. Although Gongsun Liang's words about the detoxification process were shocking, in Taiyuan City, perhaps only Gongsun Liang was worthy of Li Tai's trust. "Mr. Gongsun? Gongsun Liang?" Hearing Li Tai's words, Wang Liaoyuan noticed Gongsun Liang sitting cross-legged on the side. As the provincial governor of Bing province, Wang Liaoyuan naturally knew of such a person in Taiyuan City. At the same time, he also heard of Gongsun Liang's strange temper and treatment rules. He only sat in the hall and didn't make house calls. But now, Gongsun Liang actually appeared in this post station. What was going on? A trace of doubt flashed in Wang Liaoyuan's eyes at this time. But when he saw Wang Yu stroking his beard and smiling silently, the doubt in his eyes dissipated and was replaced by a touch of relief. Since Mr. Gongsun is here, General Dugu will definitely be able to turn the situation into safety. After being stunned for a moment, Wang Liaoyuan nodded. "Master, I brought the medicine back." At this time, Dugu Fang pushed open the door from the outside with Gongsun Liang's little medicine boy. The little medicine boy held a few large and small oil paper packages and said to Gongsun Liang, who was sitting cross-legged on the couch, Gong Sun Liang suddenly opened his eyes and ordered, "Immediately take these to the kitchen. Xiaobao, boil the medicine yourself. First use martial fire to fry it for a quarter of an hour, then slowly fry it for half an hour, then bring it over to feed this general." Chapter 1862. County Magistrate. His Majesty has issued a decree to reward the merchants who participated in the charity event yesterday. Other than publicly praising them on Tang daily, the merchants who donated money yesterday will receive the same amount of tax exemption this year. However, more than half of the merchants who donated money yesterday came from Lantian County. The total amount of money donated by these merchants is close to 260,000 strings of cash. If our Lantian County collects taxes according to His Majesty's decree, won't we collect less than 260,000 strings of cash of business tax? The county office's treasury is already not abundant, and we even donated 10,000 strings of cash yesterday. After that, the county office still has to expand the city and assist Yinshan in laying electric wires for the county. Now that His Majesty has issued a decree, the business tax collected by our county office will be reduced sharply in the future. What should we do? In the back hall of the Lantian County office, County Deputy Meng held a notice in his hand as he worriedly spoke to County Magistrate He. In the hall, other than the two of them, there was also Registrar Zhang and County Lieutenant Wang. It could be said that all the administrative officials of the Lantian County office were present. As for Jian Hu and Constable Sun, they were in charge of the prison and public security, so they did not participate in this small-scale meeting within the county office. The notice in County Deputy Meng's hand was naturally the notice of commending merchants that was posted in Chang and in the surrounding counties after the morning court. The four people present had all seen it. After County Deputy Meng finished speaking, Registrar Zhang could not help but speak up. "County Magistrate, County Deputy Meng's worries are not without reason. Back then, Marquis returned the financial authority of Lantian County to the county office and instructed us to collect and use the taxes collected by the county office for the people. Seeing that the business in the city has just picked up and the business tax collected is increasing month by month, the county office dares to start many large and small projects. Right now, we have such a big business and borrowed a lot of money from Yinhuang Bank. Furthermore, the expansion of the city walls and the laying of electric wires will require a lot of money. If we follow His Majesty's decree to collect taxes in the remaining 5 months of this year, I'm afraid we will only be able to collect 1,000 or 2,000 strings of cash in business tax, which is just a drop in the bucket. In this way, not only will the 2 projects be stopped, but the money that our county office owes Yinhuang Bank will also be difficult to pay off. Therefore, I think that if we don't follow the Emperor's order to collect taxes, we will continue to collect taxes according to the original policy." It had to be said that Li Er's imperial edict to reward the merchants who participated in the donation gathering yesterday had somewhat disrupted the development of Lantian County. If the tax reduction decree was implemented according to the imperial edict, Lantian County would suffer a huge financial loss. First of all, there were currently more than 600 merchants in Lantian County. However, there were more than 300 merchants who participated in the fundraising event yesterday. Overall, the merchants who were willing to participate in the fundraising event at least proved that their shops were on the right track and were even making a lot of profits. These merchants were currently the largest taxpayers in Lantian County. The reason why the other 300-plus merchants did not participate in the fundraiser was that, apart from a few people who were naturally stingy, most of the merchants had just moved to Lantian County. Their shops had already established themselves in Lantian County. In other words, they were not making any profits or were making very little profits, causing them to be short on cash. These merchants were the ones that Lantian County's county government needed to support. At present, they could not contribute much to Lantian County's tax revenue. If they were to collect taxes according to Li Er's tax reduction decree, the financial situation of Lantian County's county government in the next few months could be imagined. In addition, the tax collection rate in Lantian County was 1 out of 6, while the tax collection rate in the other provinces and counties in Tang Dynasty was 1 out of 30. This would lead to a problem. Two merchants had participated in the fundraising event yesterday and donated 1,000 strings of coins. However, one of them was from Lantian County, while the other was from another county. According to Lierre's edict, the two of them would receive a tax exemption of 1,000 strings of coins for the rest of the year. This might not seem like a problem, but if one were to combine it with the different tax collection rates in Lantian County and outside of Lantian County, there would be a huge problem. According to the tax collection rate of 1 out of 30 for most provinces and counties in Tang Dynasty, as long as the merchant from another county who donated 1,000 strings of coins did not make a total profit of more than 30,000 strings of coins for the remaining 5 months of the year, he would not have to pay any additional tax to the imperial court. In other words, only when he made a total profit of 30,000 strings of coins in 5 months would he be able to use up the tax exemption of 1,000 strings of coins that he received from the fundraising event. But in reality, there were very few merchants in the entire Tang Dynasty who could make a profit of 30,000 strings of coins in 5 months. In other words, even though the merchant from another county who donated 1,000 strings of coins received a tax exemption of 1,000 strings of coins, he would not be able to use up this tax exemption because his profits in 5 months were likely to be only 10,000 strings of coins or less. In this way, the imperial court's actual loss of tax from this merchant was only 1 out of 30 of 10,000 strings of coins, which was around 300 strings of coins or less. But the Lantian County merchant who donated 1,000 strings of coins was different. According to the tax collection rate of 1 out of 6 in Lantian County, as long as his total profit in the next 5 months of the year could reach 6,000 strings of coins, he will be able to use up the entire tax exemption of 1,000 strings of coins. At this time, the Lantian County's official loss of business tax from this merchant was a solid 1,000 strings of string of coins, without any discount. Chapter 1863. In some TV series, there was often such a scene when the male lead, female lead, was seriously injured and unconscious. It was difficult to feed the medicine. Therefore, the female lead, male lead, would first pack the medicine in her mouth and then feed the male lead, female lead, the medicine mouth to mouth. Putting aside the need of the plot for the time being, from a pure medical point of view, did this method have a scientific basis? Obviously not. Not to mention that when a person was lying down, it was very easy to reflux and accidentally inhale the liquid into the trachea. Even if the medicine was fed mouth to mouth, it would not change this reality. In addition, feeding medicine to a patient in a coma, no matter what position, lying down or sitting, was an extremely dangerous behavior in itself. In modern medicine, coma refers to the complete loss of consciousness. It is a serious vision of a person who has completely lost awareness of things. It is a high degree of mental breakdown due to the serious suppression of the higher nerves for various reasons. The cause must be found as soon as possible, and effective measures must be taken in time to save the patient. Generally, coma is divided into 2 types: shallow coma and deep coma. Shallow coma refers to the patient losing consciousness, but the pharyngeal reflex, corneal reflex, and pupil reflex still exist. The patient will still have a painful expression and slight movement in response to strong stimuli, such as compression of the eye socket and stimulation of the nerves of the eye socket. In deep coma, the patient does not respond to various stimuli. The clinical symptoms are muscle relaxation, incontinence, and so on. It is impossible for such a patient in a deep coma to spontaneously swallow. Once the liquid is poured into the mouth, because the patient does not have the basic swallowing reflex, the liquid will not squirm along the esophagus to reach the stomach. Instead, a large amount of liquid will gather in the throat, making it very easy to reflux and accidentally inhale due to choking. In other words, these things will mistakenly enter the trachea and reach the lungs, resulting in aspiration pneumonia. In this case, a lung infection is often life-threatening. Therefore, in modern hospitals, as long as the patient's swallowing reflex is not good, such as the neurological department's medulla oblongata paralysis, The doctor will consider feeding the patient with a gastric tube and nasal feeding diet, as well as medicine and water. They will not risk the patient's life. Although Gong Sun Liang did not know the professional terms such as swallowing reflex and advanced nerves, nor did he know that there was such an alternative method of feeding drugs through a nasogastric tube, it did not mean that one's personal problem-solving ability would be limited, even if one's knowledge was limited by the age when one reached the peak of one's expertise in a certain field. When he first examined Dugu Xian's injuries, Gong Sun Liang had not only checked Dugu Xian's pulse, but also checked Dugu Xian's eyelids, mouth, and other parts of his body. He wanted to confirm whether Dugu Xian was still conscious and whether he could swallow medicine on his own. It was because he was certain that the unconscious Dugu Xian still had a certain level of consciousness that Gong Sun Liang gave him the prescription and dared to let the little medicine boy decoct and feed the medicine to Dugu Xian. "All right, little treasure. I won't feed him for now. Take the bowl of medicine and wait at the side." Under the care of the little medicine boy, Dugu Xian barely managed to drink half a bowl of medicine. If he was fed anymore, the medicine would all flow out. Seeing this, Gong Sun Liang spoke up to stop him. In his opinion, half a bowl of medicinal soup was enough for the 2 poisons in Dugu Xian's body to take effect. "Yes, master." The little medicine boy did not hesitate. After wiping the medicine from the corner of Dugu Xian's mouth with a handkerchief, he decisively took the bowl of medicine and stood aside. Chapter 1864. Your Majesty, His Highness King of Wei has sent an urgent report. In the hall of Ganlu, Li Er, who had received spiritual comfort from Empress Zhongsun, was reviewing memorials. A young eunuch from the imperial astronomer urgently requested an audience. After the young eunuch entered the hall, he held a slip of paper in his hands and bowed to Li Er to report. An urgent report from Azure Sparrow? Li Er raised an eyebrow, a bad premonition rising in his heart. He hurriedly said to the young eunuch, "What urgent report? Quickly bring it up for us to see." "Yes, Your Majesty." The young eunuch raised the slip of paper over his head. Zhao Song hurriedly walked over, took the slip of paper, and then quickly walked forward and handed it to Li Er. "What? Dugu Xian was assassinated in Taiyuan City?" After taking the slip of paper from Zhao Song and reading its contents, Li Er's face suddenly paled, and he cried out in alarm. His voice was thick with anger and disbelief. Just a few minutes ago, he had declared in front of Empress Zhongsun how many guards Li Tai had in Taiyuan City and how safe he was. But in just a few minutes, the cruel reality had viciously slapped Li Er in the face. Li Tai's strongest fighting force, the commander of the Great Tang's Northern Yamen Imperial Army, had been assassinated in Taiyuan City. Although he didn't know Dugu Xian's current condition, whether he had been injured or whether his injuries were fatal, the assassination attempt on Dugu Xian meant that there was a faction in Taiyuan City that was resisting the Great Tang Imperial Court and plotting something. They had even dared to assassinate a general of the Imperial Court. This meant that Li Tai was not absolutely safe in Taiyuan City and might be the next target of the assassins. This also reflected the grim situation in Taiyuan City. Zhao Song, who was standing next to Li Er, also revealed a look of shock upon hearing Li Er's words. Zhao Song was well aware of Dugu Xian's strength. He was a Grandmaster-level martial arts expert before the age of 30. Apart from Li Zixuan, Dugu Xian's martial arts talent was probably the best among all the generals in the imperial court. Moreover, after Li Zixuan's guidance, Dugu Xian's swordsmanship had improved by leaps and bounds. If he used his full strength, even Zhao Song would have a headache. How could such a great expert encounter an assassination attempt in Sourcepeak City? Just how powerful and confident was the enemy? Send a telegram quickly. Tell Qin Ke to tell me the details of Dugu Xian's assassination. Also, order Bing Province's Governor Wang Liao Yuan to capture the assassin within 7 days. Otherwise, I will not let him off easily. Fang Gongting of Bingzhou's Zhechong residence was temporarily given the title of commandant. He also had the authority to command the troops to assist Wang Liaoyuan in maintaining the security of Taiyuan and protect the safety of the King of Wei and the teachers and students of Yanhuang College. The imperial edict of appointment will be sent to Taiyuan City by carrier pigeon. After reading the contents of the note, Li Er's face darkened. After thinking for a moment, he gave the order to the young eunuch from the imperial astronomer. It was a military taboo to change generals in battle, so Li Er did not directly remove Wang Liaoyuan from his position. Instead, he gave the latter a chance to make up for his mistakes. "Yes, Your Majesty," the young eunuch replied, then quickly left the hall. "Zhao Song, write what I just said into an imperial edict. Then, use the Wang family's carrier pigeon to send it to Taiyuan as quickly as possible." After the young eunuch left, Li Er instructed Zhao Song, who was beside him. This matter concerned the appointment of generals and the mobilization of troops. It was impossible to rely on telegrams alone. An official imperial edict was required. Chapter 1865. Fei. Feiying, have you caught Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an? Hurry. Interrogate them as soon as possible. Long delays may cause trouble. In Taiyuan City, in the inn, Dugu Exin, who had just woken up, felt weak and thirsty. After drinking 3 cups of water from Dugu Feiying, Dugu Exin felt a little better. He had recovered some of his strength, so he grabbed Dugu Feiying's arm and said, "Brother Dugu Feiying, let's go." The first thing on Dugu Exin's mind when he woke up was not his injuries, but the person behind the scenes. Obviously, this assassination had given him a strong sense of urgency. Since the hidden force dared to jump out and assassinate him directly, it meant that the other party's layout in Taiyuan City was basically complete. Their next target was probably Li Tai and the students and teachers of Yanhuang College. Therefore, he had to catch them before they made their next move. Otherwise, Li Tai would be in danger. "Big brother, we did catch Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an, but on the way back, Kong Chang'an was killed." Dugu Exin was killed before he reached Schwanren Square, so he did not know that the Wang family shadow guards were also attacked on the way back. Therefore, Dugu Feiying hurriedly explained. What? Kong Chang'an was killed? Cough, cough. When Dugu Exin heard this, he almost jumped out of bed, if his body's condition allowed it. Perhaps because he was too agitated, his breathing became unstable, and he began to cough. Dugu Feiying hurriedly stepped forward and patted Dugu Exin's back. He said anxiously, "Big brother, don't be so agitated. Although Kong Chang'an was killed, we still have Zhu Xiecheng. We can definitely get some information from him." Wang Yu, who was standing to the side, could not help but say, "Commander Dugu, you may not know this, but our Wang family shadow guard were attacked by 3 black-clothed masters on the way back from escorting Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an. The 3 men's martial arts were extremely high, and the leader of the Wang family shadow guards, Wang Chengwu, happened to be at Wenchang Square in the south of the city, so they succeeded in killing Kong Chang'an. After all, it was the Wang family's fault. The Wang family will definitely take good care of Zhu Xiecheng and won't let anything happen to him again. General Fei Ying is right. Right now, Commander Dugu should focus on recuperating. Zhu Xiecheng is under the care of the Wang family. It won't be too late to interrogate him after he recovers." Dugu Exin, who was lying on the bed, felt a jolt in his heart when he heard that. He struggled to wave his hand at Wang Yu and said, "Patriarch Wang, you're exaggerating. The Wang clan isn't at fault here. Furthermore, when I was ambushed in the southern alley, the one who came to my aid at the crucial moment should be the head of the Wang clan's guards, right?" How could Dugu Exin dare to lightly blame him when he has yet to repay the favor of saving his life? Wang Yu's words revealed a very important piece of information. When the Wang family was escorting Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an back, Wang Chengwu was not present. Instead, he went to the One Chang workshop in the south of the city. Coincidentally, the location where Kong Chang'an was attacked was right outside the One Chang workshop. Putting the two together, it wasn't hard to deduce that the peerless swordsman who suddenly descended from the sky when Dugu Xan was at the brink of death, was the head of the Wang family's guards, Wang Chunwu. Although Dugu Xian was a little displeased that Kong Chang'an had been assassinated despite being heavily guarded by the Wang family, he had saved his life. If Wang Chunwu hadn't gone to save him, how could the three black-clothed experts have succeeded in killing Kong Chang'an? Dugu Xian was still clear about the cause and effect of this matter. Commander Dugu's guess is correct. The one who went to the Wenchang workshop to save you was the head of the Wang family's guards, Wang Chunwu. The Wang family has lived in Taiyuan for generations. Although they don't have the responsibility of guarding the city like the government, they still don't allow anyone to behave atrociously at their doorstep. Therefore, it is the Wang family's duty to save Commander Dugu. Commander Dugu, you don't have to be so polite. In the face of Dugu Xian's thanks, Wang Yu spoke with a righteous expression. Wang Liaoyuan, who was standing at the side, suddenly felt a little ashamed. Speaking of which, maintaining the law and order of Taiyuan City should be the responsibility of the provincial government or the county government. Dugu Xian had been assassinated in the city, and the person who had saved him wasn't someone from the government, but the head of the Wang family's guards. This made the government lose face. Fortunately, Constable Feng from the provincial government had brought people to the scene at the last moment and had more or less contributed some effort. Otherwise, Wang Liaoyuan's expression would have been even uglier. No matter whether it is the Wang family's duty or just following orders, to me, Dugu Xen, it is still a life-saving grace. How can this life-saving grace just be taken lightly? When I'm feeling better, I will personally visit Brother Chungwu to thank him. Dugu Xian shook his head and insisted. Without waiting for Wang Yu to say anything, he changed the topic and said in a low voice, "But the most important thing right now is to interrogate Zhu Xiecheng as soon as possible." Among the assassins that appeared in the city today, the strongest one was a grandmaster. Their origins are probably not simple. We have to find out their identities and hiding places as soon as possible. Otherwise, we will always be in a passive position. Li Tai, who had been standing at the side for a long time, spoke up at this time. "General Dugu, don't worry about your injuries. Leave the matter of tracking down the assassins to us." But Dugu Xian wanted to say something else, but Li Tai firmly cut him off. "No buts. This is my order. Dr. Gongsun said earlier that General Dugu needs to rest more for the next few days, and you can't use force. I'm still waiting for General Dugu to recover as soon as possible so that you can lead the Imperial Army to protect me. General Dugu, please don't disappoint me. During this time, the Imperial Army will be led by General Feiying." It was rare for Li Tai to be so forceful. His resolute words left Dugu Xian with no room to refute. After that, Li Tai turned to look at Wang Yu, Wang Liaoyuan, and the others and said solemnly, "General Dugu still needs to recuperate. We won't disturb him. In addition, my father has just sent an imperial edict through the telegraph. Everyone, please follow me to receive the edict." When they heard that Li Er had sent an imperial edict, everyone in the room couldn't help but look solemn. Wang Yu's heart was as clear as a mirror. After all, Li Tai had suddenly left the room just now because the telegraph had rung. It must have been a telegram from the palace. Moreover, when Li Tai had replied to the telegram, he must have reported what had happened in Taiyuan City to Li Er. Therefore, Li Er's imperial edict must have had something to do with Dugu Xian's assassination. "Yes, sir." Everyone in the room, except for Dugu Xian, who was lying on the bed, cupped their hands in acknowledgement and followed Li Tai out the door. After a while, the crowd arrived at a side hall. Li Tai stood in front of the crowd and took out a piece of paper from his bosom. He faced the crowd and read it aloud. "Father has ordered Bing Province's provincial governor, Wang Liaoyuan, to investigate Dugu Xian's assassination with all his might. The murderer must be caught within 7 days. Otherwise, he will be severely punished. Fang Gongteng of Bing Province's Zhucheng residence will be temporarily promoted to the rank of commandant. He will also temporarily have the authority to command the army to assist Wang Liaoyuan in maintaining the security of Taiyuan City. He will also protect the safety of Yanwang College's teachers and students. The content of the imperial edict was very short. It was so short that it didn't seem like an imperial edict at all. There were no pleasantries or anything difficult to understand. It was more likely heir was giving orders in front of everyone. Although this was only an imperial edict in the form of a telegram, no one could tell if it was real or fake. Whatever Li Tai said was the truth. However, no one questioned the authenticity of the imperial edict. This was because the person who announced the imperial edict was Li Tai, Li Heir's favorite son. It was impossible for Li Tai to lie about this matter. This was because lying about this kind of thing could be easily exposed. Moreover, once exposed, his political career was basically over. Moreover, Li Tai had no reason to lie about this. There was no benefit to lying to him. Your subject, Wang Liao Yuan, obeys the imperial edict. Listening to the imperial edict, Wang Liao Yuan couldn't help but feel relieved that Li Heir didn't dismiss him directly. Instead, he wanted him to make up for his mistakes. However, the 7-day deadline made him nervous again. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to sleep in the next 7 days. Li Tai nodded and said, "Although this imperial edict came from a telegraph, you don't have to doubt its authenticity. The imperial edict with the imperial seal has already been sent here by the Wang family's carrier pigeons in the capital. It will probably arrive at noon. At that time, Granduncle, please pay more attention. The cultivation of carrier pigeons couldn't be done overnight. The imperial court couldn't cultivate a batch of carrier pigeons to cover every province and county in the Tang Empire. Not only the imperial court couldn't do it, but even a 1,000-year-old clan like the Wang family couldn't do it. At present, the Wang family could only cultivate some carrier pigeons to send messages to the ancestral home in Taiyuan. Wang Yu nodded and said, "Your Highness, don't worry. Once the Wang family receives the imperial edict, it will be sent here immediately. In addition, when Provincial Governor Wang needs any help in tracking down the assassin, please don't hesitate to ask me. The Wang family will do our best to help." "Thank you." Wang Liao Yuan clasped his hands and thanked Wang Yu gratefully. He was a distant collateral descendant of the Wang family, so he didn't receive much help from the Wang family in his official career. Especially after he became the provincial governor of a province, he took the initiative to reduce his contact with the Wang family to avoid suspicion. However, Wang Yu was willing to spare no effort to help him in this matter, which made him very touched. Li Tai said in a clear voice, "Good. In that case, I hope that all of you can work together to catch the assassin hiding in the city as soon as possible. The first thing is to interrogate Zhu Zeching and see what we can get out of him." Wang Liao Yuan clasped his hands and said, "I will do as you command. I will send people to the Wang family to detain Zhu Zeching in the prison of the government office and immediately interrogate him. We will set up a heavy guard and won't let anything happen to him." Li Tai shook his head and said, "There is no need to set up a heavy guard. I think that we shouldn't have too much hope for Zhu Zeching. The reason why the assassin only killed Kong Chang'an and let Zhu Zeching go means that they are not afraid of Zhu Zeching falling into our hands. In other words, Zhu Zeching probably doesn't have the information we want. So, for this person, we just need to interrogate him briefly. At the very least, he should know Kong Chang'an's identity. Let's not waste too much time and energy on this person. Calm and wise." While everyone was clamoring to interrogate Zhu Zeching and try to get information about the assassin from him, Li Tai remained absolutely calm. It had to be said that Li Tai was much calmer than before. The people present were not stupid. After hearing Li Tai's words, they all reacted. Indeed, according to the description of the Wang family's secret guards, after the 3 black-clothed masters killed Kong Chang'an, they had the strength to kill Zhu Zeching as well. But why didn't they do that? The only possibility was that Zhu Zeching was just an abandoned pawn that they had pushed out. An abandoned pawn that was useless and didn't know anything about their identities. Your Highness is right. I am ashamed that I almost fell into their trap. Wang Liao Yuan clasped his hands and said, ashamed. After a pause, he continued, "After I transfer Zhu Zeching to the prison, I will personally go to the Bing province camp and pass on the Emperor's decree to Fang Zicheng. Then, I will ask Feng Zicheng to immediately mobilize the troops to protect your highness and the others, as well as to track down the assassin in the city. Although Li Tai hadn't stamped the imperial edict of appointment and mobilization of troops, Li Tai had just said that the imperial edict would soon be transported to Taiyuan City. Wang Liaoyuan and Wang Yu had no choice but to believe it. Feng Gongting wouldn't dare to doubt it either, because they had already learned from the mistakes of the past. When Li Zixuan mobilized troops from Taiyuan City to stop Wu Jie, he also mobilized troops in the same way. Therefore, in Wang Liaoyuan's opinion, this imperial edict in the form of a telegram could definitely allow Feng Gongting to mobilize the troops in advance. Good. Let's move out immediately. This time, Li Tai didn't reject Wang Liaoyuan's request to have the provincial government's troops protect the academy, because by now, he also felt the seriousness of the situation. Your Highness, please excuse us. Wang Liaoyuan and Wang Yu cupped their hands and left. Suddenly, only Li Tai, Iron Egg, and Dugu Fang were left in the studio. Li Tai then turned to Iron Egg and said, Iron Egg, you are good at martial arts. Go to Dragon Mountain for me. These men in black are so arrogant and vicious. I'm worried that they will harm Mr. Emochue and the others. Immediately lead a group of Imperial Guards to Dragon Mountain Boy Temple. Iron Egg hesitated for a moment, then shook his head and said, No, I have to stay by your side and protect your safety. This is the task my master gave me. Li Zixuan had asked Iron Egg to follow the academy north not because he wanted Iron Egg to contribute to the construction of the telegram relay station, but because Iron Egg's martial arts were the best among the students of the academy. In addition, he had a good relationship with Li Tai, so he was the most suitable person to protect Li Tai. Li Tai heard this and couldn't help but feel speechless. Dugu Fang cupped his fists and said, Let me lead the troops to Dragon Mountain. Brother Iron Egg should stay by his highness's side. Although Dugu Fang wanted to stay and look after Dugu Exen, he didn't forget the mission on his shoulders. Good. Then I'll have to trouble General Fei. Chapter 1866. Guardlord, we failed to assassinate Dugu Exen. He escaped. In the heavenly guest room of Tongfu Inn, a man in martial attire lowered his head and bowed slightly. He cupped his fists at the middle-aged man in white standing by the window with a fan in his hand. The middle-aged man remained silent. He continued to look at the scenery by the window, as if he didn't hear the voice behind him. The man in martial attire tensed up. Thinking of the ruthless methods this man in front of him usually displayed, a trace of panic flashed through his eyes. He hurriedly said, because at the critical moment, the Wang family's secret guards and Yamen runners rushed over. We had no choice but to retreat. However, Dugu Exen was poisoned by our weapons and hidden weapons. Even if he was saved by the Wang family and the Yamen, he won't live long. Naturally, these words were meant to offend the group of people. Listening to his words, the leader of the group of assassins who tried to assassinate Dugu Exen in the South Alley was undoubtedly him. However, this fellow had kept his head lowered since he entered the room. No one could see his face clearly. They could only vaguely feel that this person was definitely not old. The middle-aged man by the window still didn't speak. He didn't turn around either. An invisible pressure slowly came from his body. The man in martial attire couldn't hold it in anymore. He hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, This subordinate was incompetent and couldn't complete the mission. Please punish me, guard lord. Oh, incompetent? What a good incompetent. The middle-aged man finally turned around. While waving his feather fan, he said in a cold voice, I've given you 21 experts, and you've already reached the Grandmaster realm. So many people trying to assassinate Dugu Exen, but you still failed? Do you think this is a place to raise trash? Although the middle-aged man's voice was calm, everyone could hear the anger hidden in his voice. However, he tried his best to control his volume. After all, this was an inn. If he was too loud, it would inevitably alarm the people in the next room. Hearing this, a layer of cold sweat appeared on the man in martial attire's forehead. He hurriedly said, this subordinate was careless and couldn't kill Dugu Xian immediately. As a result, he was rescued. However, I am confident that no one can cure the poison on my weapons and hidden weapons. At the latest, before the sun sets tomorrow, you will definitely hear the news of Dugu Xian's death. The middle-aged man closed his folding fan and paced 2 steps in front of the window before he said, "All right, I'll believe you one more time. If Dugu Xian doesn't die before the sun sets tomorrow, I'll hold you responsible." "Yes, yes, yes," the man hurriedly agreed. At this time, the middle-aged man looked at him and said with deep meaning, "Xian Yi, you should know that we, the Wolf Guards, never raise trash. Although you are master of the Grandmaster realm, you always like to do things sloppily. In the long run, I'm afraid even I can't protect you. Take a look at Heavenly Eagle, Twilight WIRM, and Cloud Scorpion. Even though their strengths are slightly inferior to yours, they were able to kill their targets and escape unscathed from the Wang clan's secret guards. This is not the first time they have successfully completed a mission. I hope you remember that we, the Wolf Guard, do not lack experts. What we lack are people who know how to do things. If you want to live, if you want to stand out, then don't make any more mistakes. Do you understand? Xian Yi. So this assassin's name was Xian Yi. Moreover, from what the middle-aged man had said, it seemed that they all came from an organization called the Wolf Guard. However, almost no one in the world knew what this organization did, who it served, when it was founded, or where it was located. However, the middle-aged man's words were biased. If not for this master assassin called Xian Yi drawing the attention of the Wang clan's most powerful secret guard, Wang Chengwu, those 3 peak Qi transformation assassins would never have been able to successfully kill Kong Chang'an and escape unscathed. Yes, this subordinate understands. Xian Yi's body trembled slightly, and then he cupped his fists and replied, "Who would have thought that a master martial artist would bow and scrape before a middle-aged scholar who didn't seem to know any martial arts and didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken? If this scene were to spread, who knew what the world would make of this middle-aged scholar's identity? Did you reveal your identities during the assassination?" The middle-aged man asked after a moment of silence. Xian Yi didn't immediately answer. He paused for a moment before replying, "We did not. This subordinate and the others had our faces covered the entire time. Dugu Xian, the Wang clan's secret guards, and the Yamen runners never saw our faces." In truth, during the assassination attempt, Xian Yi and the other assassins had revealed a flaw. They had first spoken in Turkic, and then Xian Yi had spoken in Han. This sort of abnormal behavior was certain to have attracted Dugu Xian's attention. However, Xian Yi was certain that the poisoned Dugu Xian would die. Moreover, even if the other party grasped this point, they wouldn't be able to find anything, so he didn't mention it. "That's good." The middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction. "Lord Wei, according to this subordinate's investigation, King Wei and Dugu Xian went to Dragon Mountain earlier today, and then they returned to the city. However, after they returned, even more Yanhuang College's teachers and students went to Dragon Mountain. Dugu Xian is currently on the verge of death, and their defenses are at their weakest. Should this subordinate take some men to Dragon Mountain and capture the Yanhuang College's teachers and students?" Seeing that the middle-aged man didn't speak, Xian Yi probed. The reason he was so proactive was that he wanted to find an opportunity to atone for his crimes. Although he had made a solemn vow to the middle-aged man that Dugu Xian would die, he wasn't very confident. Although everyone who had been poisoned by his weapon had died, what if a miracle happened to Dugu Xian? Then he would definitely be punished by the middle-aged man. Rather than that, he might as well make some contributions in advance so that he could atone for his crimes later. Hearing this, the middle-aged man frowned. After pondering for a moment, he shook his head and said, "No. Those Yanhuang College's teachers and students have many of the Northern Yamen's Imperial Army by their side. The Wang clan's secret guards can't compare to the Northern Yamen's secret guards. Right now, our hidden forces in the city aren't enough to face the Imperial Army head-on. We must avoid them and find an opportunity in the shadows to act." "Yes," Xian Yi replied in a muffled voice. Then he said, "Master Wei, After the 2 assassinations in the morning, Taiyuan City is now under full martial law. Moreover, the Bing Province Barracks has also sent out many troops to search for our whereabouts in the city. Should we move to another place? The place they were in now was the heavenly guest room of Tongfu Inn. Not only was the decoration luxurious, but the interior space was also extremely large. There were a total of 4 to 5 rooms, including the inner and outer rooms. It was completely like an independent house. Of course, more importantly, Zhu Xiecheng, who was now detained in prison by the government, used to live in this guest room. Therefore, Xianyi suggested that they move to another place to stay. Move to another place? Why do we have to move to another place? The middle-aged man chuckled and shook his head. Haven't you heard that the most dangerous place is the safest place? Next, the Wang family and the people from the provincial government will definitely focus on the big houses. Even if they search here, they won't be able to find anything. It had to be said that this guy was really brave. Speaking of which, if a normal person wanted to lurk in Taiyuan City and cause trouble, they would definitely rent a remote house to stay. After all, there were too many people in a place like an inn, not to mention that the guest room he was staying in now had just been occupied by a suspect from the government. Xianyi didn't try to persuade him again, but he was a little puzzled. Master Wei, did we make such a big fuss today just to kill Kong Chang'an and Dugexian? Now that the whole city is under martial law, it will be very disadvantageous for our next operation. Only by stirring up the water will the fish come out and swim. Only then will I know where the fish are and where they are going. The middle-aged man waved his feather fan lightly and smiled confidently. Aha! Kong Chang'an's identity is not as simple as it seems. Now that he died in Taiyuan City under the heavy protection of the Wang family shadow guards, the ones who will have a headache next are the Taiyuan government and the Wang family, not us. And this is just a test of the fish's purpose in coming to Taiyuan City. But there is no need to test them now. Someone has already come to tell us the answer. How interesting. It seems that there are some smart ones in this school of fish. These words were very vague, but Xianyi understood. He asked tentatively, Master Wei, that Wang, that person, can we trust him? Will he betray us? The middle-aged man frowned slightly, but after a moment, he smiled faintly. If he wanted to betray us, he wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. In the end, he and I are the same kind of people who don't want me trapped in this small Taiyuan city. He is also a smart person, and with him secretly helping us, it will be easier for us to succeed. At this point, the middle-aged man turned to look at Xianyi and said with a serious face, Go back now and watch over them. Tell them to bury their weapons properly. Be careful for the next 2 days. Don't cause any trouble. I will send a messenger pigeon later and inform the Great Khan of the situation here. I believe that the Great Khan will be interested in this matter. We will hide in the city first and wait for an opportunity to move. Messenger pigeon, the Great Khan. The amount of information hidden in the middle-aged man's words was not small. Just the 3 words Great Khan showed that his allegiance was not to the Central Plains, but to the Great Khan of the Turks, Xieli. Not only could this fellow speak fluent Chinese, but he also knew how to send a messenger pigeon. Obviously, he was a man from the Central Plains. Why would a man from the Central Plains work for the Great Khan of the Turks? And his status in the Turks was not low either. Who was this person? There were too many mysteries in this, waiting for Li Tai and the rest to solve. If they cannot solve it, it would be difficult for them to complete their mission. Yes, this subordinate obeys. Xianyi bowed and was about to leave when the middle-aged man stopped him. Wait. Xianyi paused, and the middle-aged man said lightly, If there is nothing important in the next 2 days, try not to come here and bother me. Yes, Master Wei, Xianyi replied and turned to leave. The door creaked open from the inside and then closed from the outside. The room regained its peace, and only the fragrance of tea lingered in the air. Creak. After some time, the door was pushed open from the outside again, and a tall man with eyes as bright and spirited as a nighthawk walked in and ran straight into the room. Master Wei, we just received news that the post house has invited all the famous doctors in the city. including half-immortal Lu from Taiyuan City and Gong Sunliang from Huichun Hall in the north of the city. It is said that the two of them are famous miracle doctors around Taiyuan, and they're only slightly inferior to miracle Dr. Sun Simiao. Therefore, this subordinate estimates that Dugu X might not die. When he saw the middle-aged man sitting on the couch and sipping tea, the tall man quickly bowed and cupped his fists. "All right, I got it." The middle-aged man unhurriedly swallowed the tea in his mouth, then put down the teacup and said lightly, "Xianyi is an idiot. He has good skills, but he can't do anything right. He is far inferior to you three brothers." When the tall man heard that, a hint of joy flashed across his eyes. He quickly lowered his head and cupped his fists. "Master Wei, you flatter us. It is our honor to serve Master Wei and Khan. We will do our best to serve Master Wei." Good. The middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction and said, "Sky Eagle, when this matter is over, I will promote you to be the deputy leader of the Wolf Guards. When I help Khan take over the Central Plains and become the state preceptor, the position of Master Wei will be yours. When that time comes, you will live a life of riches and honor and rest with the country." The tall man was immediately mesmerized by the beautiful future described by the man in front of him, but he came to his senses a moment later and quickly said, "Sky Eagle doesn't dare. There will always be only one Master Wei of the Wolf Guards. Sky Eagle doesn't dare to overstep." The middle-aged man's eyes showed a hint of admiration. He smiled and said, "All right, you can leave now. While you're at it, tell Xianyi this news and let him receive 30 lashes. Tell him that he failed this mission and couldn't kill Dugu Xian. I will let him live for now. If he fails again next time, he won't be so lucky." Actually, it didn't matter to him whether Dugu Xian died or not. What was important was to kill Kong Chang'an. However, it was a good choice for him to use this as a warning to his subordinates. "Yes, Master Wei." The tall man's lips curled slightly. Then he cupped his fists and left. What? There was an assassin in Taiyuan City, and Dugu Xian was injured? In the west court of the Imperial Palace, Li Er was in a dilemma for a long time. He first let Empress Zhang Sun mentally prepare herself before telling her the information he had just received. When Empress Zhang Sun heard this, her heart jumped to her throat. She suddenly stood up and said with a face full of shock, "Doesn't that mean that Qin Kai is now in great danger in Taiyuan City?" At this moment, Empress Zhang Sun almost fainted from fright. In her mind, she couldn't help but think of that dream again. That dream was so real that it made her want to suffocate. Although she tried her best to change it, the reality was developing step by step towards that dream. She could only watch from the side and was powerless to do anything. Chapter 1867. Mei Guanyin, don't panic. Li Er helped Empress Zhangsun back to her seat and softly said, "Taiyuan isn't the border. Even if there are villains plotting in the city, they won't be able to do much. The gates of Taiyuan City are tightly shut, and the Imperial Army and provincial soldiers are protecting it. Qin Kai will definitely be fine, unless the enemy leads an army to attack the city. But how could that be possible? If Taiyuan City is attacked, the soldiers of the surrounding provinces will immediately go to reinforce it. Moreover, yesterday, we sent Li Junxian to lead a group of 100 elite cavalry to Taiyuan. Based on the time, he shouldn't be far from Taiyuan. With him here, no one will be able to touch Qin Kai. Mei Guanyin, don't worry." Yesterday, when Li Er had sent a telegram to Li Tai, he had also summoned Li Junxian and had him lead a group of 100 elite cavalry to Taiyuan City to protect Li Tai. If they moved quickly enough, they should be able to reach Taiyuan City before nightfall today. The 100 cavalry was Li Er's most elite and secret force, and each of them was a 1 in 10,000 elite. The commander of the 100 cavalry, Li Junxian, was skilled in both martial and civil matters, and he was also resourceful. As a spy, Li Junxian had played a significant role in vanquishing the Heavenly Dragon sect. With him at Li Tai's side, Li Er could not be worried about Li Tai's safety. 100 cavalry? Li Junxian? Empress Zhongsun felt a little better after hearing Li Er's gentle words of comfort, and her breathing gradually stabilized. She sat up straight and looked at Li Er. Is your Majesty's words true? Is Li Junxian really about to reach Taiyuan with 100 cavalry? It was clear that Empress Zhongsun had heard of Li Junxian and was very confident in his abilities. Li Er patted Empress Zhongsun on the back and chuckled. Huh, how could this be false? Besides, when have we ever lied to you? Just relax, and don't let your imagination run wild. We promise you that nothing will happen to Qin Ke. Empress Zhongsun leaned her head against Li Er's chest and said with a light. The resolute promise of the man in front of her gave her a great sense of security. Her heart, which had been in a mess, finally calmed down. If the Marquis of Yong and is by Qingchue's side, then I will truly be at ease. Empress Zhongsun nestled in Li Er's arms, but this thought popped up in her mind for no reason. Although Li Zishuan was strong, he was still much weaker than Li Zishuan. After all, Li Zishuan had managed to escape from the hands of the world's #1 expert, Wu Jie. Moreover, since Li Zishuan's debut, not only had he made many outstanding achievements, but he had also saved himself from many desperate situations. His life was like a cheat code. This was a man of destiny who had the attribute of avoiding danger. As a mother, Empress Zhongsun naturally hoped that the strongest person would be at her son's side to protect him. But as the Empress Zhongsun was not willing to use public resources for private use at this time. This was because Li Zishuan was currently training the Black Armored Army, and the Black Armored Army was his strongest trump card in the upcoming war between the Great Tang and the Turks. Empress Zhongsun did not want her own matters to affect the training of the Black Armored Army, and thus the outcome of the war between the Great Tang and the Turks. Thus, although this was what she thought, Empress Zhongsun did not speak to Li Er. At the same time, to the north of Taiyuan City, in the Bingzhou barracks, Wang Liaoyuan carried the imperial decree in the form of a telegram to Fang Gongting's tent. He first told Fang Gongting about the 2 assassinations that had occurred in the city today, and then he proposed that the soldiers of the Bing province barracks be sent into the city to search for the assassins and maintain order. Adjunct Fang, this official knows that there are rules in the army. Without the personal order of the governor or an imperial decree, no one has the right to mobilize the soldiers of the Bing province barracks. But you should be able to sense that the situation in the city is extremely dangerous. If they even dared to assassinate General Dugu, who can guarantee that their next target won't be King Wei? If anything happens to King Wei in Taiyuan City, no one will be able to endure His Majesty's thunderous rage. Although this official's imperial decree does not have a seal and cannot compare to an imperial decree to mobilize soldiers, this official still hopes that Adjunct Fang can understand the severity of this matter. Do not put King Wei in danger because of a mere formality. Within the tent, Wang Liaoyuan handed the telegram to Wang Liaoyuan and spoke with a solemn expression. His words could be said to be sincere, and Fang Gongting was not an unreasonable person. However, the matter of mobilizing soldiers was of great importance. Moreover, even if he believed that the imperial decree in Wang Liaoyuan's hands was real and was willing to mobilize soldiers, the other generals in the army might not be willing to believe it. Governor Wang, it is not that this person is a mere formality or unreasonable person, but this imperial decree is, first, a promotion, and second, the mobilization of soldiers. This is truly too important. This general is only a member of the army. If I first promote myself and then mobilize soldiers into the city, I fear that it will be difficult to convince the masses. After a moment of thought, Fang Gongting awkwardly cupped his fists toward Wang Liaoyuan. In the end, Fang Gongting was only a member of the army. If he used the telegram in Wang Liaoyuan's hands to promote him to commandant, it was inevitable that there would be some discordant voices in the army. This was because ever since the Bing province barracks had stopped the Turkic army at Yinmen Pass and the original commandant Su Tingda had died at Yinmen Pass, many generals in the Bing province barracks had covetously eyed the position of commandant. If Fang Gongting was promoted to commandant in such an unconventional manner, it would truly be difficult to convince the masses. Hearing this, Wang Liaoyuan's brows furrowed. After some thought, he said, Adjunct Fong, you might not know, but when the Marquis of Yong'an came to the Bing province barracks to mobilize soldiers, he did not have an imperial decree. Instead, he had the same telegram as this official right now. Fortunately, the imperial court sent the imperial decree to Taiyuan through the Wang clan's carrier pigeon. Otherwise, this official would probably be like you, refusing to mobilize soldiers. Now that the situation is urgent and His Majesty has sent another telegram and carrier pigeon, what reason do you and I have to refuse the imperial decree? Moreover, according to King Wei, the real imperial decree will be sent to Taiyuan through the Wang clan's carrier pigeon this afternoon. If you and I know that His Majesty has given an imperial decree, yet don't mobilize soldiers ahead of time, giving the enemy an opportunity to take advantage of. If His Majesty pursues this matter, neither of us will be able to bear the responsibility. Wang Liaoyuan's meaning was very simple. If the imperial decree sent by Li Er in the form of a telegram was sent to other places, the officials of other places would naturally have reason to not believe it because they had never seen it before. However, now that the imperial decree was sent to Taiyuan City, they had no reason to not believe it because the same situation had happened once before. Fong Gongting was silent for a moment. He gritted his teeth and cupped his fists. Since Marquis used this method to mobilize soldiers last time, this general naturally has no reason to refuse. How about this? This general will summon all the officers and soldiers. Governor Wang, you will read the imperial edict. But please, for the time being, you will only read the imperial edict regarding the mobilization of the troops. As for the temporary transfer of this general to the commandant, you will have to wait for the official imperial edict before announcing it to the officers and soldiers. In any case, Governor Wang's main goal is to mobilize soldiers into the city. Moreover, when we attacked the Turks in the north last time, most of the soldiers in our Bing province barracks personally participated in the battle. You only need to tell the soldiers how Marquis Yong and mobilize the soldiers last time. This general believes that the soldiers naturally won't dare to disobey. This was a compromise. Right now, the Bing province camp was like a group of dragons without a leader. Although Fong Gongting was the one with the highest prestige, there were still other generals who were on par with him. If he was directly promoted to Bing province commandant in such an abnormal way, it would definitely cause some people to be dissatisfied. Rather than this, it was better to mobilize the soldiers first and wait for the official decree to come before announcing the promotion. This would minimize the variables to the greatest extent. With Wang Liaoyuan's authority and prestige in the Bing province barracks, Fong Gongting believed that it would be easy to achieve his goal if he only used the imperial decree to mobilize the soldiers. Wang Liaoyuan's eyes flashed. After a moment of silence, he nodded. Good. Then I'll have to trouble Governor Fong. Fong Gongting was right. His purpose in coming to the barracks was to mobilize the soldiers. As for the power struggle in the army, he wasn't interested and didn't dare to be interested. This was because Bing province was different from other places. The military power here was controlled by the governor and had nothing to do with the governor. Governor Wang is too polite. Then this general will go and gather the soldiers. Fong Gongting stood up and cupped his fist. Good. Fong Gongting left the tent and immediately ordered the soldiers to gather at the commander appointment platform. Just as he had expected, when Wang Liaoyuan took out the telegram and explained that Li Zishuan had used the same procedure to mobilize the soldiers in the Bing province barracks, the soldiers were all convinced of the authenticity of the imperial decree. This was especially true for those soldiers who had accompanied Li Zishuan in stopping Wu Jie and the Turkic wolf cavalry. In this way, the matter of mobilizing the troops would be completed without a hitch. At 9:15 in the morning, 10,000 soldiers filed out of the Bing province barracks. Under Fong Gongting's lead, these 10,000 soldiers entered Sourcepeak City and began to search the streets for people with weapons and suspicious identities. The bailiffs of the provincial government, the Wang clan's shadow guards, and the soldiers of the Bing province barracks gathered in the city. For a moment, the atmosphere in the city was unprecedentedly tense. An invisible net was cast over Sourcepeak City, making it impossible for any hidden faction to hide. At the same time, in the prison of the Bing province barracks, Wang Lian, Dugu Feng, Li Tai, and Wang Yu, these four representatives of the various factions, were interrogating Zhu Xiecheng. In truth, Li Tai's status as a prince was not suited to enter the prison. The ancient people were mostly superstitious and believed that the yin qi in the prison was heavy and inauspicious. Before entering, Wang Liaoyuan had tried to persuade Li Tai, but Li Tai was eager to understand the truth and insisted on following. No one could do anything about it. Chapter 1868. Zhu Hongshang. Your real name is Zhu Xiecheng, right? Are you Turk? In the prison of Taiyuan Prefecture, Wang Liaoyuan, Wang Yu, Dugu Feng, and Li Tai were sitting on the same bench. Wang Liaoyuan slapped the table in front of him and asked Zhu Xiecheng, who was kneeling on the ground in front of him. This was a prison, so the conditions here were naturally much simpler than in the court, but no one cared about that. The reason why they chose to interrogate Zhu Xiecheng in the prison instead of in the court was mainly, first, to keep it a secret, and second, to make it more convenient for the punishment. After all, the torture tools in the prison were much more abundant than those in the court. If Zhu Xiecheng refused to tell the truth, Wang Liaoyuan would immediately send someone to torture him. This was not a place where human rights were concerned. First, this was ancient times. Second, this was a prison. Most importantly, there was a huge crisis lurking in Taiyuan City. Li Tai's life was in great danger, and Zhu Xiecheng happened to be the only person Wang Liaoyuan had caught who might know the enemy's background. In this case, even if Wang Liaoyuan killed Zhu Xiecheng, the civil and military officials would not hold Wang Liaoyuan responsible for anything, let alone human rights. Zhu Xiecheng looked up at Wang Liaoyuan unhappily and said nothing. Then he lowered his head again. Wang Liaoyuan stopped breathing and then said angrily, "Humph! Now that things have come to this, what else do you have to hide? Do you still think that someone can save you? Don't forget that when you were taken away from Schwanren Mill, you were attacked on the way. This means that the person behind you wants you to die, not to save you. If you still want to live, then tell me everything you know. Otherwise, Kong Chang'an will most likely end up like you." In fact, Wang Liaoyuan rarely used harsh punishments when dealing with criminals. When facing Zhu Xiecheng, he instinctively wanted to give him a chance to confess. That was why he said so much. Otherwise, if it was another official who saw this scene, it was very likely that the criminal would be punished severely. As soon as Wang Liaoyuan finished speaking, Zhu Xiecheng's body clearly trembled. He raised his head and looked at Wang Liaoyuan and the others. After hesitating for a moment, he stuttered, If I tell you the truth, can I really live? Humph! How dare you talk about conditions? If you don't tell me, do you think I won't kill you right now?" Zhu Xiecheng's words angered Dugu Feng, who had just returned from patrolling Dragon Mountain. Dugu was ordered by Li Tai to bring people to Dragon Mountain to protect Mo Chue and the other Yanhuang college teachers and students. However, when he arrived, he found that everything was normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary. The students had already started building and started testing the machines. Dugu Feng and the Imperial Army. Of course, he returned. As soon as he returned, he saw Wang Liaoyuan interrogating Zhu Xiecheng, so he followed Li Tai. His most respected brother had just been assassinated in the morning and almost died. He was still angry, but Zhu Xiecheng was still stammering. Wasn't he trying to provoke him? How could Dugu Feng tolerate this? As he spoke, Dugu Feng had already stood up. He pulled out his sword and was about to teach Zhu Xiecheng a lesson. Zhu Xiecheng was scared out of his wits. He couldn't help but want to run away. At this time, Wang Yu grabbed Dugu Feng and said, "General Dugu, please calm down. Why don't you give this guy a chance? If he doesn't tell the truth, then it won't be too late to beat or kill him." Wang Yu was the head of the Wang family, the provincial governor of Sui province, and the emperor's son-in-law. In addition, when Dugu Feng went to the Wang family's ancestral home, to ask for help. Wang Yu didn't hesitate to send out all of the Wang family's forces to help Dugu Feiying find Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an's whereabouts. Although they didn't find anything after a day of searching, Dugu Feiying had to accept this favor. Therefore, when he heard Wang Yu's words, Dugu Feiying immediately stopped and glared at Zhu Xiecheng fiercely. "Hurry up and tell me. If you don't tell the truth, I'll cut you into pieces." "Oomph." Dugu Feiying snorted and returned to his seat. Wang Liaoyuan looked at Zhu Xiecheng and said, "I promise you that as long as you tell the truth, I'll do my best to save your life. Can you tell me now?" These two people were playing the good cop and bad cop. After a series of threats and promises of benefits, Zhu Xiecheng's psychological defense was finally broken. "I'm willing to tell you everything. I'm willing to tell you everything. I hope the provincial governor can show mercy and spare my lowly life." Zhu Xiecheng seemed to have found a life-saving straw. He knelt and bowed to Wang Liaoyuan. After a while, he calmed down a little and slowly said, I'm Kong Chang'an. I'm from the Zhuxia tribe of the Turkic Khaganate. I've been doing business on the grasslands since I was young." Chapter 1869. Taiyuan City, in the prison of the government office. Under the interrogation of Wang Yu, Dugu Feiying, and the others, Zhu Xiecheng told them everything that had happened after he came to Taiyuan City, including why he had stayed in the same inn, why he and Kong Chang'an had suddenly disappeared from the Chu ironware shop, and how the two of them had escaped the Wang family's pursuit. After everyone heard this, they all frowned. According to Zhu Xiecheng's confession, it meant that there was an invisible black hand in the shadows of Taiyuan City that was manipulating and controlling everything. Moreover, this black hand could be said to be omnipotent. Who was the owner of the house you hid in Schwanner Market? Why was there no one in the house other than the two of you when the Wang family's guards went there? After a long silence, Wang Yu couldn't help but ask. Since he had told them almost everything, Zhu Xiecheng was no longer afraid of the revenge of the mysterious person behind the scenes, so he simply confessed everything, replying to Sir, "After Boss Kong and I arrived there according to the mysterious person's instructions yesterday, we found that there was no one living in the house. At that time, the two of us thought that the mysterious person in the E-Temple was lying to us, but at that time, the whole city was chasing us, and we had no other place to stay, so we could only go to the backyard suspiciously. We didn't expect that there really was a cellar in the backyard. After we hid in the cellar, we thought that no one would send us food. At night, Boss Kong and I were so hungry that we had no choice but to crawl out of the cellar to look for food. Unexpectedly, at the cellar's exit, we found a food box full of good wine and good food. Obviously, someone deliberately sent it here. Boss Kong and I both felt that the mysterious person didn't lie to us, so the two of us hid in the cellar with peace of mind. Anyway, that place was hidden, and the most important thing was that every meal was sent to the cellar's entrance. We planned to stay in the cellar until Taiyuan City returned to normal, then escape from Taiyuan City. In other words, you haven't seen the owner of this house? And you haven't seen the person who sent you food?" Hearing this, Wang Yu couldn't help but frown. No. Zhu Xiecheng quickly shook his head and said, "We planned to climb out of the cellar today and wait for the people who brought us food so that we could thank them in person. However, instead of the people who brought us food, the people who caught us came. You know what happened after that?" This guy spoke fluently, and his gaze was not evasive at all. Obviously, he was telling the truth. Wang Yu turned his gaze to Wang Liaoyuan. Wang Liaoyuan understood and explained. This official has already sent people to investigate. The original owner of this house was called Shi Danyang. He was a grain merchant. However, this person went south to buy grain a year ago. On the way, he encountered bandits and died. Shi Danyang has no children, nor does he have a wife. So this house has been abandoned since last year. When Wang Yu heard this, a look of disappointment appeared on his face. With this lead was broken again. Speaking of which, he had planned to investigate the owner of this house and obtain some information about the mastermind behind the scenes. Looking at it now, his plan was definitely ruined again. Since this house has been abandoned for a long time, How were you two found by the Wang family's guards? It was rare for Dugu Feiying to be intelligent. He looked at Zhu Xiecheng and asked a very important question. Chapter 1870. I just went back and checked. The reason why Bai Qing was able to find Zhu Xiecheng hiding in Schwanren Square was not because of himself. Someone sent him a note through a feather arrow when he was patrolling in the south of the city this morning. The content of the note was the person the Wang family is chasing is hiding in the basement of the backyard of the fifth house in the east of Schwanren Square. Bai Qing followed the note and went to the backyard of the fifth house in the east of the Schwanren Square. As expected, he found Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an. But in order to take the credit for himself, he lied and said that he found Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an by himself. That's why I was fooled by him. After the interrogation of Zhu Xiecheng, Wang Liaoyuan, Dugu Feiying, and Li Tai were sitting in the back hall of the government office. They were all at a loss. At this time, Wang Yu came in with a sullen face. He cupped his hands and said to the three people in the room, judging from his tone, it was likely that after he returned to the Wang family alone, the Wang family must have been in a state of chaos. As for the instigator, Bai Qing, he would definitely not have a good ending. He would most likely suffer some physical pain. Is there such a thing? Wang Liaoyuan was slightly surprised, but then he felt that it was inappropriate to say that. It seemed like he was rubbing salt on Wang Yu's wound. So he quickly changed the topic and said, so someone deliberately let us know about Zhu Zeching and Kong Chang'an's news. Who could it be? Everyone in the room was stumped by this question. Wang Yu, Dugu Feiying, and Li Tai all frowned and thought about the connection between these clues. At this moment, a person quickly walked in. He bowed to Wang Liaoyuan and said, My lord, I brought people to the Chu family ironware shop. We've searched the entire place. Other than the weapons that are usually displayed for sale, we didn't find a large number of weapons in the warehouse. The person was Constable Feng from the provincial government office. After the interrogation of Zhu Xiecheng, Wang Liaoyuan ordered Constable Feng to go to the Chuji ironware shop to do a more detailed search. Now that this case was related to the smuggling of weapons to the Turks, he had to find out the whereabouts of these weapons no matter what. This way, he could give the imperial court an explanation. No weapons? Okay, this official understands. You may leave first. Wang Liaoyuan frowned slightly and asked Constable Feng to leave. He stroked his beard and said, It seems that Kong Chang'an has already handed over the weapons to the mysterious person behind the scenes. But how is that possible? In Wang Liaoyuan's subconscious mind, since the mysterious person was so cautious, he must have controlled Zhu Xiecheng, Kong Chang'an, and the others to do things for him from afar. Therefore, he naturally thought that Kong Chang'an couldn't have given the weapons to the mysterious person in such a short time. Li Tai said, What's impossible about that? Perhaps the mysterious person behind the scenes is also in Sourcepeak City right now. Li Tai said something that no one dared to think about. Everyone was shocked. Wang Liaoyuan's hand shook and almost pulled his beard off. He couldn't believe it and said, What? The mysterious man behind the scenes is in Taiyuan now? How is this possible? Wang had always been calm. After thinking for a while, he said, Your Highness' guess seems impossible, but it is the most reasonable explanation for the sudden disappearance of the weapons from the Chu ironware shop. If I were the person behind the scenes, I would probably choose to stay in Sourcepeak City right now. Not only would it be easier for him to command his subordinates to do things here, but the most dangerous place is also the safest place. In Sourcepeak City, Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an are covering for him on the surface while he himself is watching from the shadows. It will only be safer. The most dangerous place is also the safest place. Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an are only covering for the person behind the scenes on the surface. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard Wang Yu's words. Li Tai couldn't help but say, If that's really the case, then many things can be explained. When Zhu Xiecheng first stepped into the Tang Empire, he was already used as a chess piece to distract us. Although this person seems to have many clues, none of them are directly related to the mysterious person behind the scenes. We can't find any information about the mysterious person through him. Therefore, there is no risk to the mysterious person behind the scenes by using this kind of person to distract himself. 2 days ago, General Fei Ying brought people to Source Peak City to investigate the hidden dangers in the city in advance. He quickly noticed the suspicious Zhu Xiecheng, which means that the mysterious person's plan was successful. At that time, because of Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an, Source Peak City was in turmoil. However, after Dugu Xian and I entered the city, General Dugu Xian ordered the Imperial Army to focus on protecting the people from the academy and ignore the whereabouts of Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an. As a result, the plan of the mysterious person behind the scenes was completely ruined. The mysterious person was unwilling to give up, so he used a special method to inform the guards of the Wang family about Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an. He wanted to use this to draw our attention back to the two of them. At that time, the two of them had already become the abandoned pawns of the mysterious person behind the scenes. However, it was possible that Kong Chang'an knew the identity of the mysterious person behind the scenes, so he was intercepted and killed on the way back to the Wang family. Zhu Xiecheng is just an abandoned pawn who knows everything but knows nothing at the same time. The other party probably gave this guy to us for free just to attract our attention and waste our time. Li Tai relied on the clues he possessed to his heart's content and let his imagination run wild. Needless to say, these thoughts of his seemed to be unconstrained, but when one thought about it carefully, it was actually completely reasonable. Everyone couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines when they heard this. Because if the matter was really as Li Tai guessed, then the scheming of this mysterious person behind the scenes was so deep, his methods were so secretive, and he was so cunning that it simply caused one to shudder with fear. They had fallen into the trap set by the mysterious person from the very beginning. Your Highness, what you said is reasonable, but also creepy. If this is the case, then haven't we all fallen into the mysterious person's trap? Wang Yu frowned and said worriedly. Wang Liaoyuan said in a low voice, the mysterious person behind the scenes is so cunning. We must catch him as soon as possible. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Dugu Feng said with a troubled look, but now that Kong Chang'an is dead, our only clue is gone. How can we find the mysterious person behind the scenes? Chapter 1871. The 9 families of Zhaowu refer to the Sweets and their descendants who came to the Central Plains from China during the Northern and Southern dynasties, the Sui Dynasty, and the Tang Dynasty. Their kings all had the surname Zhaowu. The 9 families of Zhaowu were originally from the Yu family. At the beginning of the Han Dynasty, the Xiongnu destroyed the Yuezhi and forced them to move west. The Yuezhi tribe, which used to live in Zhaowu, Gansu, as their old home, fled west and entered the Sut region of Central Asia. They conquered the local natives and formed a number of city-states. Later on, under the rule of Kuda, they were forced to change their surname to one Wenasha. After the decline of Dada, the various city-states regained their independence. Their surname was Zhaowu, forming the Zhaoda city-states headed by the Kong Kingdom. Among them were in Chao, Shi, Mi, Shi, Mu, Bai, and so on. They were collectively known as the 9 surnames of Zhaowu. In the Tang Dynasty, they were also known as the 9 surnames of Hu, or simply Hu. In the West, they were known as Sogdians. Later on, some of the 9 families of Zhaowu accepted the rule of the Turks and the Tang Dynasty. In the 8th century, the country fell to the Arabian Empire. After that, most of the people gradually became Turks and Muslims, becoming one of the modern Uzbeks of Central Asia. A small portion of them scattered among the Tajiks. Although the 9 families of Zhaowu were far weaker than the Turks in terms of fighting ability, their business attribute was much higher than that of any nomadic people in the north. As the Sweet region was the throat of the Silk Road, the 9 families of Zhao naturally became a people with a business tradition. To put it bluntly, they became hereditary middlemen, selling China's silk to the West and Western gems and wine to the Tang Dynasty. After all, they started as nomads but couldn't beat the Tang Dynasty. They could only rely on their mobility to become merchants. Even the technology of making paper was passed to Central Asia by the Kong Kingdom. In fact, since the Han and Wei dynasties, this group of Swedes had entered the Central Plains to do business along the Silk Road. However, because the West Jin dynasty was short-lived, the Central Plains was in chaos and they couldn't even take care of themselves. During the Sui and Tang dynasty, the Silk Road gained a new lease of life thanks to the Tang dynasty's open and inclusive policies. This attracted a large number of people from the 9 surnames of Zhaowu to come to the east. According to the old book of Tang, the journey of Xinghu, the years follow. After the founding of the Great Tang, many of the 9 families of Zhaowu came to China. Many of them had become wealthy through business. They envied the splendid culture of the Tang Empire and married and had children in the interior. Gradually, they became Chinese, and some of them even formed considerable political forces. For example, the Yin brothers. At the end of the Sui dynasty, the world was in chaos, and Li Gui occupied Liangzhou. In order to recover Liangzhou, and Xingui submitted a memorial to Li Yuan, hoping to persuade Li Gui to surrender and submit to the Tang dynasty. Li Yuan did not agree, so the two of them once again offered a plan and ultimately helped the Tang army to flatten Prince Liang, Li Gui, who occupied Heshi. Because of the outstanding contributions of the Yin brothers, and Xingui was conferred the title of Right Marquis Great General, the title of Liangguo Duke of Shangzhou State, the title of Liangguo Duke, the title of 600 households and 10,000 pieces of silk. And Xiu Ren was also conferred the title of Great General of the Left Martial Marquis, conferred the title of Duke Shun, bestowed upon the Tian residents, and conferred upon 600 households. However, this peace had nothing to do with Lushan's peace. Although they were all Socrates and had the surname, and this one was like our Lu, Wang, and Li surnames. There were many Socrates with this surname. Not only that, the descendant of the Yin family, and Bao Yu, was later placed in an important position by the famous General Li Guangbi. He contributed a lot in the fight against the Lushan rebellion, and the imperial court gave him the surname of Li. Li Baoyu's cousin, Li Baozhen, became the Zhe Road Jidushi. In the fight against the rebellion of the Hsua towns, he contributed a lot and was promoted to the position of inspector of the prefectures. The Yin family could be considered a family of martyrs. In truth, during the Lushan rebellion, there were many who sacrificed their lives for the sake of bringing sugar. For example, Li Guangbi was a Khitan, a standard who, due to the Tang dynasty's policy of opening up, many foreigners became officials in the imperial court, forming the unique foreign soldiers and generals in the history of the Tang dynasty. The 9 families of Zhaowu were a power that could not be ignored. In general, the biggest characteristic of the 9 families of Zhaowu was that they were rich, very rich. Once a person had money, they would think of ways to obtain a certain political position. The 9 families of Zhaowu were no exception. Other than those who entered the imperial court as officials by chance, a large number of the 9 families of Zhaowu were doing business in the Tang dynasty while using money to attach themselves to some powerful local forces. Moreover, the 9 families of Zhaowu were like branches of the same tree. The 9 families of Zhaowu who were doing business outside the Tang dynasty were surprisingly united. It was not an exaggeration to say that when one side is in trouble, all sides will help. Therefore, the influence of the 9 families of Zhaowu in the Tang dynasty could not be underestimated. Not to mention that Kong Chang'an was from the Kong Kingdom, the sovereign country of the 9 families of Zhaowu. Coincidentally, this guy had connections with the royal family of the Kong Kingdom. In this way, Kong Chang'an's death was not just a murder case. It could very well turn into a diplomatic dispute. If the authorities of Taiyuan City could not give a reasonable explanation for Kong Chang'an's death, not only would the Kong Kingdom not leave the matter at that, the Kong Kingdom or the 9 families of Zhaowu in the Tang dynasty would probably not rest. They might cause endless trouble for the authorities of Taiyuan City. After all, whether it was modern society or feudal society, Although money was not omnipotent, it could solve most problems, such as hiring assassins, monopolizing the market, disrupting the prices of goods in the city, and so on. No matter what methods they used, Wang Liaoyuan and the others would not have it easy. When a group of people was extremely wealthy, even if they didn't have any official position, the influence they had was incomparable to that of ordinary people. Kong Chang'an and Kong Chu were the same. But was the Tang Dynasty afraid of the 9 families of Zhao? Obviously not. In terms of overall national strength, even if the 9 families of Zhao were multiplied by 10, they might not be able to defeat the Tang Dynasty at its peak. The strength of the 9 families of Zhao did not lie in national strength, but in the soft power of the economy. Not only did they monopolize the trade between the Tang Dynasty and the Western countries, but they also controlled the commercial and economic lifelines of many provinces and counties in the Tang Dynasty. As the saying goes, pull one hair and the whole body will be affected. If the Tang Dynasty made a move against the 9 families of Zhao, although it could win, it would also suffer great losses. This one was shocked to hear that Brother Kang's ironware shop was suddenly closed down and that Brother Kong himself had met with an accident. Therefore, I came to the provincial governor's office to ask the provincial governor to uphold justice for Brother Kong and find out who killed Brother Kong. In the back hall of the government office in Taiyuan, Kong Chu naturally saw the shock of Wang Liaoyuan, Wang Yu, and Li Tai, but he did not make a fuss about it. Instead, he calmly cupped his hands and said to Wang Liaoyuan, Chapter 1872, asking him to leave. Facing Kong Chu, who was being unreasonable, Wang Liaoyuan decisively asked him to leave. After all, he was an official and represented the Taiyuan government. Kong Chu was just a small merchant from another country in Taiyuan City. Why did he have to question him again and again? Provincial governor, please wait. Wang Liaoyuan asked Kong Chu to leave, but Kong Chu didn't know what was good for him. He said loudly, Provincial governor, Brother Kong died in Taiyuan City under unknown circumstances. I sincerely hope that provincial governor can allow me to participate in the investigation. On one hand, I can answer to my king. On the other hand, I have many capable people under my command that can help provincial governor solve the case and catch the murderer. Good heavens, this bastard actually wants to participate in the government's investigation? Wang Liaoyuan's face darkened. He said in a low voice, Thank you for your kindness, but you don't have to participate in the investigation. Finding the truth and catching the murderer is the responsibility of the Taiyuan government and me. You don't have to worry about it. If you don't have anything else to say, please leave. Don't interfere with the investigation. Wang Liaoyuan did not care that Kong Chu was using the king of the Kong kingdom to threaten him. It was impossible for Kong Chu to meet the king of the Kong kingdom. Even if he could meet the king of the Kong kingdom and speak to him, Wang Liaoyuan would not be afraid. That was because the most important thing for the entire Taiyuan officialdom was to eliminate all hidden dangers in the city that were harmful to Li Tai, so as to ensure his safety. Apart from that, there was nothing more important than this. Kong Chu was very dissatisfied. He said, Provincial governor, you don't want me to participate in this case. Is there something else? Or are you confident that you can solve the case in a short time? How dare you? Wang Liaoyuan could not hold it in anymore. He shouted angrily, Why should the provincial governor report to you about the investigation? I am paid by the imperial court. I should share the burden of the Tang emperor. Are you questioning the fairness of the imperial court? Even if the king of the Kong kingdom was here, he wouldn't dare to say such nonsense. If you continue to cause trouble here, this official will definitely charge you with the crime of disrupting the investigation. There was a saying that a weak country had no diplomacy, and Wang Liaoyuan's words were a perfect example. The Tang Empire and the Turkic Empire were both extremely powerful countries in Asia. Although the Kong Empire was good at economics and had strong soft power, its comprehensive national strength was still less than 1/10 of the Tang Empire's. Therefore, Wang Liaoyuan's words were quite forceful. Kong Chu was embarrassed by Wang Liaoyuan's scolding. He bowed and said, Then I request to leave the city. I want to return to Kong country and tell Brother Kang's family about this bad news. Please allow me. Currently, the 4 city gates of Taiyuan were already sealed, which was why he had made such a request. Otherwise, he would have already left the city. Wang Liaoyuan frowned and refused. No. Right now, this official has ordered the city guards to seal the city gates and search for the whereabouts of the assassin who tried to assassinate Kong Chang'an. Before the assassin is caught, no one is allowed to leave the city. If you want to leave Taiyuan, you'd better wait patiently in the city for a few days. Kong Chu said with an ugly face, Brother Kong and I are best friends. Now, I just want to leave the city and return to Kong country to tell Brother Kang's family about the bad news of Brother Kang's death. Why is provincial governor stopping me? Could it be that the provincial governor suspects that I am also an assassin? Chapter 1873. All right, County Magistrate I have already sent out everything that you wanted to report to my husband. Lantian County, Yoan Marquis Manor, Main Hall. Han Yushi, Li Jingma, Madam Li, and County Magistrate were all in the hall. However, Han Yushi was sitting at the table at the head of the hall, and in front of her was a large box. At this moment, Han Yushi stood up and spoke to County Magistrate This was the imperial edict that had been sent out this morning. Just as all the officials of Lantian County were in a dilemma and were at their wits' end, County Magistrate personally visited the Marquis Manor and requested Han Yushi to inform Li Zixuan, who was in the military camp, of the current situation in the county office through the telegraph. Han Yushi was, after all, a married woman. Although the Tang Dynasty was liberal, it wasn't liberal to the point of allowing men outside to meet their wives alone. Therefore, after knowing the purpose of County Magistrate visit, Han Yushi personally moved the telegraph from her room to the main hall while instructing the maidservants to invite Li Jingma and Madame Li to the main hall of the Marquis Manor. On the surface, it was to accompany them, but in reality, it was to avoid suspicion. Thank you, madam. This official and all the officials in the county office are extremely grateful. County Magistrate, he stood up and bowed respectfully to Han Yushi from afar. However, he didn't have any intention of leaving because he still had to wait for Li Zixuan's reply. Han Yushi pursed her lips and chuckled. County Magistrate, he is too serious. My husband isn't in the county, so I still have to trouble you to help my husband manage Lantian County. Furthermore, my husband didn't consider it thoroughly and should have prepared a telegraph for the Lantian County office. When County Magistrate heard this, he blushed and said, Cough, cough. Madam, you must be joking. Even if Marquis prepared a telegraph for the county office, no one in the county office would know how to use it. He was a scholar and had studied the 4 books and 5 classics. After Li Zixuan took over Lantian County, he worked under Li Zixuan. Although he had received many new ideas and knowledge, he still felt that he couldn't handle a new thing like the telegraph that required a higher professional knowledge. County Magistrate, you are too modest. Han Yushi smiled faintly, then bowed to Li Jingma and Madame Li and said, Father, Mother, there's still some matters in the backyard, so Yushi will be busy first. I'll have to trouble you to accompany County Magistrate Just now. County Magistrate report involved a lot of things. I think my husband will have to think for a while before replying. When the time comes, you can just send someone to the backyard to call me. Han Yushi's thoughts were still relatively conservative. She did not want to get too involved in official matters. Moreover, she felt that it would be rather awkward for her to continue staying here, so she found an excuse to leave. Li Jingma nodded and replied, Good, good, good. Go ahead and do your work. County Magistrate, he cupped his hands and sent him off. Black Armored Army's camp, inside the tent. After receiving the telegram that County Magistrate entrusted Han Yushi to send, Li Zixuan was in a dilemma. Just as County Magistrate, said, if Lantian County's government responded to the Imperial Court's reward policy, Lantian County's business tax revenue would be greatly reduced this year. There was a high probability that they would lose more than half of their business tax revenue. Furthermore, Lantian County was currently in a period of rapid development. Many of the infrastructure in the city were not complete, so they needed a large amount of money to invest in infrastructure. If the business tax revenue was pulled down, it would directly affect Lantian County's development progress. However, if Lantian County's government insisted on its own governance and did not implement the preferential tax policy, the merchants in the county, especially those who attended the donation ceremony yesterday, would definitely feel disappointed. This would not be beneficial to Lantian County's business development. Money, money, money. In the end, it's still a matter of money. Li Zishuan furrowed his brows and paced back and forth in the tent in frustration. In the end, this matter was still a matter of money. If the Lantian County Yamen had a lot of money, they wouldn't have this problem at all. Then give them a discount? What was there to be troubled about? But the problem was that the government had no money now. Before entering the military camp, Li Zishuan had heard county magistrate. He mentioned that the expansion of the city and the laying of electric wires in the city would require a large sum of money. The government had already borrowed a few thousand strings of coins from the Yanhuang Bank and planned to return the money after the taxes were collected. However, now that Li Er's imperial edict was out, if Lantian County followed the imperial edict, Lantian County's government might not be able to repay the debt owed by the Yanhuang Bank this year. If it was Li Zishuan's financial situation in the past, he would definitely be able to help Lantian County's government out of its financial predicament. Why was it in the past? It was because after a few times of squandering, building the medical school, building the protective mountain formation of Yinshan, creating armor and equipment for the Black Armored Army for free, etc., Li Zishuan did not have much cash on hand. This might sound unbelievable, but it was the truth. But then again, even if Li Zishuan had the ability and capital to help Lantian County's government get out of its financial predicament, he would not directly use his own personal funds to make up for the government's financial deficit. This was because a few months ago, Li Zishuan had already made Lantian County's government independent of its finances. The taxes collected by the government did not have to be handed over to him. Similarly, when the government needed a large amount of money to build infrastructure, roads, bridges, schools, medical centers, etc., they could not ask him for help. Money, money, money. That's right. Isn't this a matter of money? If I don't have money, I can find someone to build it for me. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Li Zishuan's mind, and he thought of a plan that could satisfy both sides, and that was beep, 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 beep. As soon as he thought of it, Li Zishuan immediately returned to the table and started to operate the telegraph machine to send a telegram. After a short wait, someone finally responded. Li Zishuan hurriedly sent his idea in the form of a coded message. Order: Lantian County's government will fully comply with the Emperor's decree and implement the corresponding business tax preferential policies in the city. As for the government's financial shortfall this year, with the marquee and Lantian County's government's name and credit as guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. The term of the loan will be 2 years. As for the interest rate, you can discuss it with the King of Shu. This 50,000 strings of cash will be used for the reconstruction of Lantian County's infrastructure, the expansion of the city walls, and the laying of electric wires. Every expenditure must be recorded in detail, and no one is allowed to embezzle it. When the reconstruction of the city is completed and the business environment is greatly improved, I believe that Lantian County's business will become even more prosperous. When that time comes, a mere 50,000 strings of cash will definitely be paid off in less than 2 years. This last paragraph was mainly to dispel County Magistrate He's concerns. Otherwise, with County Magistrate He's cautious personality, he would definitely not dare to borrow such a large sum of money from Yanhuang Bank. That's right, Li Zishuan was planning to follow the path of rapid development in most modern cities. That was, the government would invest heavily in infrastructure. On one hand, it would expand domestic demand, because infrastructure required the support of many upstream and downstream industrial chains, as well as many workers. On the other hand, it would improve the city's infrastructure. In fact, it was mainly the transportation facilities that would drive the development of various industries in the city. Chapter 1874. Marquis has ordered us to follow His Majesty's decree and implement preferential business tax policies in Lantian County. As for the county government's financial shortfall this year, we will use the name and credit of Marquis and Lantian County government as a guarantee to apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. The loan period is 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instructions from the telegraph, County Magistrate, he did not dare to delay any further. He immediately left the Marquis mansion and returned to the county government. He gathered County Deputy Meng, Registrar Zhang, County Officer Wang, and the rest to the back hall of the county government and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. After he finished speaking, the officials in the room were all shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash. So much money. When will our county government be able to pay it back?" Registrar Zhang could not help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our county government has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. I feel that if we borrow 30,000 strings of cash at most, it will be enough to support the county government through the major projects in front of us. Furthermore, we are borrowing so much at once for such a long time. Yanhuang Bank may not be willing to lend it to us." County Officer Wang also deeply agreed. He even added, "Even if Yanhuang Bank is willing to lend it, the interest rate will definitely not be low. 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years, including the interest. How much money do we have to pay back to Yanhuang Bank?" If it were not for Li Zishuan's strong character, County Officer Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to help Yanhuang Bank get business. Although Yanhuang Bank was already under the control of the Tang Imperial Court, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. Faced with Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the county government, except for County Magistrate, he had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the rest had a really low mentality. If this was in modern times, who would be worried about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to pay it back? They were worried that the borrowed money was not enough to complete the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to pay back the money, it was impossible. It was endorsed by the official credibility, seeing that everyone was against it. Even though Wang Liaoyuan had the same opinion as them in the beginning, he still tried to persuade them. Marquis ordered us to fully comply with His Majesty's decree and implement the corresponding preferential business tax policies in Lantian County. As for the county yaman's financial shortfall this year, with the name and credit of Marquis and the Lantian County Yaman as a guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank for 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instruction from the telegraph, County Magistrate, he didn't dare delay any further. He immediately left the Marquis of Yong An's manor and returned to the county yaman. He gathered County Deputy Meng, Registrar Zhang, County Lieutenant Wang, and the others to the back hall of the county yaman and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. As soon as he finished, the officials in the room were all shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash. When will our county yaman be able to repay such a huge sum of money?" Registrar Zhang also couldn't help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our county yaman has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. I feel that if we borrow 30,000 strings of cash at most, it will be enough to help the county yaman through the major projects in front of us. Furthermore, we are borrowing so much at once for such a long time. Yanhuang Bank may not be willing to lend it to us." County Lieutenant Wang also agreed. He even added, "Even if Yanhuang Bank is willing to lend it, the interest rate won't be low. If we borrow 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years, with the interest, how much money do we have to repay Yanhuang Bank?" If it weren't for Li Zishuan's tough character, County Lieutenant Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to get business for Yanhuang Bank. Although Yanhuang Bank was controlled by the Imperial Court of Tang Empire, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. Faced with Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the county yamen, except for County Magistrate He, had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the other officials' thoughts were really low. If this was in modern times, who would worry about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to repay it? They were all worried that the borrowed money was not enough to complete the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to repay the money, it was impossible. They had the government's credibility as their endorsement, seeing that everyone was unanimously against it. Although Wang Liaoan had the same opinion as them at the beginning, he still advised. Marquis ordered us to fully comply with the emperor's decree and implement the corresponding business tax preferential policies in Lantian County. As for the county yamen's financial gap this year, with the name and credibility of Marquis and Lantian County Yamen as a guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanwang Bank. The loan period is 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instructions from the telegraph, County Magistrate He didn't dare to delay any further. He immediately left Marquis Mansion and returned to the County Yamen. He gathered County Deputy Meng, County Lieutenant Wang, and the others again in the back hall of the County Yamen and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. After he finished, the officials in the room were all shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash. When will our County Yamen be able to pay back so much money?" County Lieutenant Zhang also couldn't help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our County Yamen has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanwang Bank. I feel that if we borrow 30,000 strings of cash at most, it will be enough to support the County Yamen through a few big projects in front of us. Moreover, we are borrowing so much at once for such a long time. Yanwang Bank may not be willing to lend it." County Lieutenant Wang also deeply agreed. He even added, "Even if Yanwang Bank is willing to lend it, the interest rate won't be low. If we borrow 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years, with the interest, how much money do we have to repay Yanwang Bank?" If it weren't for Li Zishuan's tough character, County Lieutenant Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to get business for Yanwang Bank. Although Yanwang Bank was already under the control of the Imperial Court of Tang Empire, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. Facing Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the County Yamen, except for County Magistrate He, had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the others' thinking was really low. If this was in modern times, who would worry about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to pay it back? What they worried about was that the borrowed money was not enough to complete the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to pay back the money, it was impossible. It was backed by the government's credibility, seeing that everyone was unanimously against it. Although Wang Liaoan had the same opinion as them in the beginning, he still advised. Marquis ordered us to fully follow the emperor's decree and implement the corresponding preferential business tax policies in Lantian County. As for the County Yamen's financial shortfall this year, with the name and credibility of Marquis and Lantian County Yamen as guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanwang Bank. The loan period is 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instruction from the telegraph, County Magistrate He didn't dare to delay any further. He immediately left Marquis Mansion and returned to the County Yamen. He gathered County Deputy Meng, County Lieutenant Wang, and the others in the back hall of the County Yamen and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. As soon as he finished, the officials in the room were shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash. So much money. When can our County Yamen pay it back?" County Lieutenant Zhang also couldn't help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our County Yamen has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanwang Bank. I feel that if we borrow 30,000 strings of cash at most, It will be enough to help the county yamen pay for the big projects in front of us. Moreover, we are borrowing so much at once, and for such a long time, Yanhuang Bank may not be willing to lend it back. County Lieutenant Wang also agreed and added, even if Yanhuang Bank is willing to lend it back, the interest rate won't be low. If we borrow 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years, with the interest, how much money do we have to repay Yanhuang Bank? If it weren't for Li Zishuan's tough character, County Lieutenant Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to help Yanhuang Bank get business. Although Yanhuang Bank was controlled by the imperial court of Tang Empire, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. Faced with Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the county yamen, except for county magistrate He, had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the other officials' thoughts were really low. If this was in modern times, who would worry about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to pay it back? What they worried about was that the money they borrowed was not enough to pay for the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to pay back the money, it was impossible. It was backed by the government's credibility, seeing that everyone was unanimously against it. Although Wang Liaoan had the same opinion as them in the beginning, he still advised. Marquis ordered us to fully follow the emperor's decree and implement the corresponding preferential business tax policies in Lantian County. As for the county yamen's financial gap this year, with the name and credibility of Marquis and Lantian County Yamen as the guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. The loan period is 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instructions from the telegraph, County Magistrate He didn't dare to delay any further. He immediately left Marquis Mansion and returned to the county yamen. He gathered County Deputy Meng, Registrar Zhang, County Lieutenant Wang, and the others in the back hall of the county yamen and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. As soon as he finished, all the officials in the room were shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash? So much money. When will our county yamen be able to pay it back?" Registrar Zhang also couldn't help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our county yamen has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. I feel that another 30,000 strings of cash will be enough to help the county yamen through the major projects in front of us. Moreover, we are borrowing so much at once for such a long time. Yanhuang Bank may not be willing to lend it back." County Lieutenant Wang also deeply agreed. He even added, even if Yanhuang Bank is willing to lend it back, the interest rate won't be low. 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years. With the interest, how much money do we have to pay back to Yanhuang Bank? If it weren't for Li Zishuan's tough character, County Lieutenant Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to help Yanhuang Bank get business. Although Yanhuang Bank was already under the control of the imperial court of Tang Empire, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. In the face of Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the county yamen, except for County Magistrate He, had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the other officials' thoughts were really low. If this was in modern times, who would be worried about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to pay it back? What they were worried about was that the borrowed money wasn't enough to complete the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to pay back the money, it was impossible. It was backed by the government's credibility, seeing that everyone was unanimously against it. Although Wang Liaoyan had the same opinion as them in the beginning, he still advised. Marquis ordered us to fully comply with the emperor's decree and implement the corresponding business tax preferential policies in Lantian County. As for the county yamen's financial shortfall this year, with the name and credibility of Marquis and Lantian County Yamen as the guarantee, we will apply for a long-term loan of 50,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. The loan period is 2 years. After receiving Li Zishuan's reply and instructions from the telegraph, County Magistrate He didn't dare to delay any further. He immediately left Marquis Mansion and returned to the county yamen. He gathered County Deputy Meng, Registrar Zhang, County Lieutenant Wang, and the others in the back hall of the county yamen and announced Li Zishuan's decision on the spot. As soon as he finished, the officials in the room were all shocked. County Deputy Meng even exclaimed, "Borrow 50,000 strings of cash. So much money. When can our county yamen pay it back?" Registrar Zhang couldn't help but say, "Isn't 50,000 strings of cash a little too much? Our county yamen has already borrowed 7,000 to 8,000 strings of cash from Yanhuang Bank. I feel that if we borrow 30,000 strings of cash at most, it will be enough to help the county yamen pay for the major projects in front of us. Moreover, we are borrowing so much at once and for such a long time. Yanhuang Bank may not be willing to lend it to us." County Lieutenant Wang also deeply agreed. He even added, "Even if Yanhuang Bank is willing to lend it, the interest rate won't be low. 50,000 strings of cash for 2 years. With the interest, how much money do we have to pay back to Yanhuang Bank?" If it weren't for Li Zishuan's tough character, County Lieutenant Wang would have suspected that Li Zishuan made this decision on purpose to help Yanhuang Bank get business. Although Yanhuang Bank was controlled by the Imperial Court of Tang Empire, Li Zishuan, the founder, still had a lot of shares in it. Facing Li Zishuan's decision, all the officials in the county yamen, except for County Magistrate He, had almost the same reaction. It had to be said that as people in the government, County Deputy Meng and the other officials' thoughts were really low. If this was in modern times, who would worry about borrowing too much money from the bank and not being able to pay it back? They were worried that the borrowed money was not enough to pay for the infrastructure projects in the city. As for not being able to pay back the money, it was impossible. They had the government's credibility to back them up. Seeing that everyone was unanimously against it as expected, Wang Liaoyuan had the same opinion as them at the beginning, but now he still persuaded them, yes. Chapter 1875. When Li Zishuan returned to the drill ground, the soldiers of the Wu Battalion were doing arm strength training, which was push-ups and pull-ups. Today, the soldiers were used to these 2 arm strength training methods, and the training standard had slowly increased from 100 push-ups and 15 pull-ups per soldier to 150 push-ups and 25 pull-ups per soldier. The training volume had increased by 50%. Everyone's body potential was limitless, and as the training continued, the potential would gradually increase, but the speed of increase was not linear. Normally, the speed of increase would be faster at the beginning, and the speed of increase would be slower towards the end. Therefore, at the beginning of the training, it was necessary to increase the training volume for the soldiers in a timely and reasonable manner according to the training situation of the soldiers. 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 88. Li Zishuan walked to the side of the training ground of the Wu Battalion and listened to the counting sounds. Suddenly, he heard a particularly discordant sound, and he couldn't help but stop walking. Looking at the burly man beside him who was counting, Li Zishuan's mouth twitched, and he stepped forward and kicked the burly man's leg and scolded angrily. "Is it 88 after 82? Wang Rong, do you not count?" This burly man was the sergeant, squad leader, of the first squad of the Wu Battalion, Wang Rong, and Ding Dali, who helped Zhang Kongyan to incite the soldiers to mutiny, was a soldier under him. At this moment, he was supervising the soldiers doing push-ups and helping to count at the side. Ever since that incident, Wang Rong felt that he had wronged Li Zishuan. From his point of view, Li Zishuan was a great benefactor to his hometown, but his soldiers actually did such a thing. As a squad leader, although he didn't participate in it personally, he was responsible for not being strict with his subordinates. Wang Rong had always felt guilty towards Li Zishuan. Recently, under his supervision and urging, the soldiers in his squad had been training very hard, and he had never fallen behind in his own training, and the training volume he set for himself was twice that of a normal soldier. However, Wang Rong was a boorish man through and through. Not to mention going to school, he didn't even know how to write, let alone know how to count. He had no problem counting in the single digits, but when a number was large, he didn't even know where he was counting to. Li Zixuan was an engineering nerd in his previous life, but after he traveled to Tang, he started his career as a mathematics teacher. As a mathematics teacher, how could he tolerate the fact that there were people around him who couldn't count? Hee, join the army. You're here. Wang Rong was kicked for no reason, but he wasn't angry at all, because the person who kicked him was Li Zixuan. He scratched his head and smiled embarrassedly at Li Zixuan. That I really don't know how to count. It's okay if it's a small number, but if it's a large number, then please forgive me. Join the army. Wang Rong spoke in a dignified manner, but the soldiers of the first unit of the Wu battalion lowered their heads and tried to hold back their laughter. Li Zixuan rolled his eyes and said helplessly, "If you don't know how to count, then count separately. 150 divided into 3 counts, and count 50 each time. Otherwise, if you count like that, you'll get 8 out of 10 people wrong." Wang Rong's eyes lit up when he heard that, and he couldn't help but say excitedly, "Divided into 3 counts? That's a good idea. Join the army. You're indeed a literary star." Chapter 1876. I see. On the drill ground, Sun Jiping was suddenly enlightened. If the soldiers of the 2nd Battalion are only putting on a show during their daily combat training, then in tomorrow's combat competition, their results will definitely not be as good as ours. Li Zixuan nodded with a smile and said, "This is why I've always requested the soldiers to conduct their daily training with the mentality of actual combat. They are all good men of my great Tang. I would rather have them suffer some injuries during training than lose their lives on the battlefield. Also, even if the 2nd Battalion soldiers put in as much effort as ours in their daily combat training, they will still not be a match for ours. Because they have only learned half of the training methods from the new drill manual, they have only learned the superficial combat training, like push-ups, pull-ups, and other basic auxiliary training. They have not done them at all. For a martial artist, if they do not have strong arm strength and stamina, how can they beat an opponent of the same level? That is why I said that the 2nd Battalion only learned the form of our training methods, but they did not learn the essence. And because of their blind learning, it has disrupted their original training rhythm, and it is very likely that their original advantage in traditional military formations will gradually disappear. For us, this may not be bad news." After listening to Li Zixuan's analysis, Sun Jiping suddenly felt more confident about tomorrow's combat competition and the military competition 3 days later. He smiled and said, "You are right. In these few days, I will keep an eye on the soldiers and urge them to complete all the training tasks with the highest quality." Li Zixuan nodded and praised. "With you here in the E Battalion, I can rest assured, but there is something I need to tell you. These few days, the soldiers have indeed been training very hard. You and I have seen it with our own eyes. But just looking at it is not enough. As the saying goes, those who have done well should be rewarded, and those who have done wrong should be punished. Although it is only training now, and they have not gone to the battlefield, but for those who have trained hard and achieved outstanding results, we should still give appropriate rewards. Otherwise, as time goes by, the soldiers may lose the motivation to train hard." Sun Jiping frowned and asked in confusion, "What do you mean? How should we reward the soldiers?" He was only the lieutenant of the E Battalion, not the general of the Black Armored Army. He did not have much authority in this aspect regarding rewards, so he could only ask Li Zixuan for advice. Li Zixuan pondered for a moment and said, "How about this? In the next few days, Jiping, pay attention to the soldiers who have been training unusually hard. I want you to pick out a group of outstanding soldiers who have outstanding training and record them in a book. If he is a normal soldier, he can be promoted to a deputy general. If he is already a squad leader, then he can be promoted to deputy general of a battalion. These selected soldiers will lead the training of the brothers in the camp during peacetime. During wartime, I need them to form a special assault team. I want them to take down the enemy's most elite and hard-to-take-down forces on the battlefield. Special assault team. Hearing this new term from Li Zixuan's mouth, Sun Jiping was stunned for a moment. After thinking about it carefully for a while, he roughly understood what kind of existence the so-called special forces were. After a moment of silence, Sun Jiping cupped his fists and said solemnly, "This general obeys." "I see." On the drill ground, Sun Jiping suddenly realized what was going on. If the soldiers of the B Battalion are just putting up a show during their daily combat training, then in tomorrow's combat competition, their results will definitely not be as good as ours. Li Zishuan nodded with a smile and said, "This is why I've always requested the soldiers to conduct their daily training with the mentality of actual combat. They're all good soldiers of the Tang Empire. I would rather they get injured during training than lose their lives on the battlefield. Also, even if the soldiers of the B Battalion put in as much effort as our soldiers in their daily combat training, they will still not be a match for our soldiers. Because they have only learned half of the training methods from a new drill manual, they have only learned the superficial combat training. Like push-ups, pull-ups, and other basic auxiliary training, they have not done them at all. For a martial artist, if they don't have strong arm strength and stamina, how can they beat an opponent of the same level? That's why I said that the B Battalion only learned the form of our training methods, but not the essence. And because of their blind learning, it messed up their original training rhythm. And it is very likely that their original advantage in traditional military formations will gradually disappear. For us, this may not be a bad news." After listening to Li Zishuan's analysis, Sun Jiping suddenly felt more confident about tomorrow's combat competition and the military competition 3 days later. He smiled and said, "You are right. In the next few days, I will keep an eye on the soldiers and urge them to complete all the training tasks with quality and quantity." Li Zishuan nodded and praised, "With you here in the E Battalion, I can rest assured, but there is something that I need to tell you. In the past few days, the soldiers have been training very hard. You and I have seen it with our own eyes, but just looking at it is not enough. As the saying goes, one should be rewarded for meritorious deeds, and one should be punished for wrongdoings. Although it is only training now and not going to the battlefield, but for those who have trained hard and achieved outstanding results, we should still give appropriate rewards. Otherwise, as time goes by, the soldiers may lose the motivation to train hard." Sun Jiping frowned and asked with some confusion, "How should we reward the soldiers according to your idea?" He was only the lieutenant of the E Battalion and not the general of the Black Armored Army. Regarding the rewards for the soldiers, he did not have much authority in this aspect, so he could only ask Li Zishuan for advice. Li Zishuan frowned and pondered for a moment, then said, "How about this? For the next few days, Jiping, pay close attention to the soldiers who are training unusually hard. I want you to pick out a batch of outstanding soldiers and record all of them in a book. If he is a normal soldier, you can promote him to a deputy general of a team. If he's already a squad leader, you can promote him to a deputy general of a battalion. These selected soldiers will lead the training of the brothers in the battalion during normal times, but during wartime, I need them to form a special assault team. I want them to specifically take down the most elite and difficult force of the enemy on the battlefield." Special assault team. Sun Jiping was startled when he suddenly heard a new term from Li Zishuan. After thinking about it carefully for a while, he roughly understood what kind of existence the special assault team mentioned by Li Zishuan was. After a moment of silence, Sun Jiping cupped his hands and said seriously, "Yes, sir." Chapter 1877. Reporting to the provincial governor and your highness King of Wei, this subordinate followed Kong Chu all the way to Jining Square in the west of the city and didn't find anything strange about him. I also didn't see him come into contact with anyone on the way. This subordinate had people hide near his residence and secretly observe. If there is any news, report it immediately. Taiyuan City, back hall of the provincial governor's mansion. Constable Feng strode in from outside and cupped his fists to Wang Liaoyuan and Li Tai. At this time, only Wang Liaoyuan and Li Tai were left in the room. As for Dugu Feiying, he took the weapons scattered by the assassins in the morning and worked with the soldiers of the Bing province barracks to search for the assassins in the city. Wang Yu naturally had to return to the Wang family to make some arrangements. After all, In terms of searching for people, especially in Taiyuan City, the Wang family's ability and strength were not inferior to the government. The reason why Li Tai hadn't left yet was mainly to wait for news from the people who followed Kong Chu. Wang Liaoyuan frowned and asked, "You're saying that Kong Chu has a residence in Jining Square?" "Yes," Constable Feng replied. Wang Liaoyuan continued to ask, "Did you find out when he started doing business in Taiyuan City?" Constable Feng cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate found out that Kong Chu came to Taiyuan City 3 years ago. He opened a treasure shop in the city that specializes in selling gems and pearls. In recent years, business has been good, and he's an honest person. Last year, he married a local wife. The woman is the daughter of a country squire from outside Taiyuan City. Her name is Su Xiuha. After the two of them got married, they were very loving. Nothing out of the ordinary happened." Wang Liaoyuan frowned and didn't say anything. Li Tai asked, "Did you ask Kong Chu's neighbors if any strangers came looking for him or sent him a letter today?" Constable Feng nodded and said, "Your Highness, this subordinate asked an auntie who sells pancakes in front of the Kong residence. She said that in the Kong residence today, other than Kong Chu, there was only an old farmer who carried vegetables in. No one else came in or out of the Kong residence." "An old farmer who delivered vegetables?" Li Tai's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly asked, "What is this old farmer's background? Have you checked?" Constable Feng had obviously done his work well this time. He cupped his fists and replied, "I've asked around. This old farmer is a farmer from Nanha village outside the city. He has a son who lives in the city. He just moved into the city this year and stayed with his son. Basically, he would send vegetables to Kong Chu's house every few days. There's nothing unusual about him." Hearing this, Li Tai couldn't help but frown in silence. Seeing this, Wang Liaoyuan waved his hand at Constable Feng and said, "You did a good job. You can leave now. I have something important to discuss with His Highness." "Here." Constable Feng cupped his fists, bowed, and left. Li Tai raised his head and looked at Wang Liaoyuan. "Provincial Governor Wang, I still think there's something wrong with Kong Chu. Have someone keep an eye on Kong Chu. Report to me as soon as you find anything strange." Although Kong Chu looked normal on the surface, Li Tai's intuition told him that Kong Chu was definitely hiding something. Wang Liaoyuan had been an official for so many years, so he was still alert. He also felt that there was something wrong with Kong Chu. Hearing this, he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll make the arrangements." Li Tai nodded and stood up. "If that's the case, I'll leave this to Provincial Governor Wang. I still have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Although Dugu Xan had been assassinated and the hidden assassin in the city hadn't been caught, the Academy's task of building a relay station still had to continue. It might even have to be sped up. This was because Li Tai didn't know how many more obstacles he would face. He wanted to be as quick as possible. Otherwise, he might not be able to complete the task in 2 months. Wang Liaoyuan's heart skipped a beat as he cupped his fists. The hidden danger in the city hasn't been dealt with yet. It's best if Your Highness doesn't go out for the next few days. If Your Highness insists on heading to Dragon Mountain, you can bring the Imperial Guards and the Bing Province barrack soldiers along. Clearly, Wang Liaoyuan could tell that Li Tai wouldn't stop because of the assassin, so he reminded him. Li Tai nodded and said, "Okay, I understand. I'll be careful." With that, Li Tai put his hands behind his back and walked out the door. Taiyuan City was destined to not be peaceful today. In fact, Taiyuan City hadn't been peaceful for the past 2 days. Yesterday, the Wang family's forces on the surface and in the dark had been searching for Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an in the city. Yesterday, Taiyuan City was buzzing with activity. Today, the 10,000 soldiers of the Bing Province barracks were scattered in every corner of Taiyuan City, searching for something from house to house. After these soldiers entered the houses of the commoners, they didn't ask anything and directly searched the houses. The houses of the butchers and hunters were the main targets of the search. The sabers, arrows, and other weapons hidden in their houses were all found by the soldiers of the Bing Province barracks. Then, one of the soldiers took out a blueprint from his bosom. On the blueprint, there were drawings of various weapons. The weapons were also engraved with a special pattern. The soldier looked at the weapons found in the houses of the commoners while looking at the blueprint in his hand, as if he was comparing them. After the comparison was completed, if there were no abnormalities, the soldiers would withdraw without a word. If the weapon found was similar to the weapon pattern on the blueprint, the owner of the house would be arrested and sent directly to the provincial governor's manor. Taiyuan City had a total of 56 houses, with a population of more than 400,000 people. For 10,000 soldiers to search from house to house, this project was no small matter. This was the beginning of the Tang Dynasty, and the military discipline of the Tang army was very strict. The Bing Province Barracks was the most powerful barracks in the north of the Great Tang, so its military discipline was naturally very strict. Although the soldiers were searching from house to house, they were very disciplined. Generally, the owners of the houses would gather the women in one place before they entered to search. Thus, although the search of the soldiers caused some inconvenience to the lives of the commoners, on the whole, the commoners of Taiyuan City mostly supported the soldiers' work. Of course, there were always exceptions to everything. Not everyone was willing to cooperate with the search. Some of the rich and powerful families in the city were often unwilling to let the soldiers go in and search. After all, they were all big families and businesses. If the soldiers went in and damaged something during the search, the losses would be great. Moreover, the great clans had many secrets. If the soldiers discovered something shameful about the owners of the houses during the search, wouldn't they suffer a great loss? Thus, when the owners of the great clans heard that the soldiers were coming to search, they couldn't help but order their servants to stop them. However, the search warrant today was jointly issued by the Bing Province Provincial Governor Wang Liaoyuan and the Bing Province Barracks Commandant Fang Gongting, the two highest-ranking military and political officials in Bing Province. The soldiers would carry out this search warrant unconditionally. The servants and guards of the great clans who wanted to stop the search were all knocked to the ground. If the owners of the houses still didn't know what was good for them, they would be arrested and sent to the provincial governor's manor along with those who had hidden suspicious weapons in their houses. Thus, for a moment, Taiyuan City could be said to be in chaos. At the same time, Longshan seemed to be completely unaffected by Taiyuan City. According to the division of tasks that Li Tai had assigned in the morning, the members of the 5th and 6th teams took out measuring tools and began to survey the buildings of the Longshan Boy Temple. The measuring tools they took were all from Yanwang College. At the beginning of this year, the Academy officially established the 2nd and 3rd Trump Card Project. The 2nd Trump Card Project was to improve the telegraph and increase the transmission distance of telegrams. The 3rd Trump Card Project was mainly to establish measurement standards and make standard measuring tools. After nearly half a year of hard work, the Academy had not only established its own measurement standards committee to establish unit standards for some new physical quantities, but also worked together with the workshop of the interesting pavilion to produce a batch of precision measuring instruments. These instruments would provide a standard reference for all similar instruments in the future, and they would be calibrated as soon as they changed. The measuring instruments held by the students on Longshan included a ruler, a large triangular ruler, and even a tape measure. The units of these measuring instruments were not the inch, chi, or zhang commonly used in the Tang Empire, but the new units proposed by the Measurement Standards Committee of the Academy according to Li Zishuan's idea: millimeter, centimeter, decimeter, and meter. Although 1 centimeter of these measuring instruments was not strictly equal to 1 centimeter of modern measuring instruments, it was not important. In ancient times, if one wanted to make precision production, the ancient measurement units had to be subdivided. At this time, the smallest unit of length was 1 inch, about 333 centimeters, which obviously could not meet the requirements of precision production. Thus, Li Zishuan not only proposed millimeters, but also smaller units such as microns. The Academy was currently making more precise measuring instruments, such as vernier calipers. Mr. Mo, we have finished measuring the inside and outside of the boys' temple. We think that the height here can meet the requirements of the construction of the telegraph relay station. We can even directly build the telegraph relay station in the meditation room on the second floor of the boys' temple. In this way, we don't need to build an additional high platform for the telegraph relay station, and we can save a lot of time. Near noon, the 8 students of the 5th and 6th groups found Mo Chue. One of the students handed the drawing in his hand to Mo Chue and reported seriously. Mo Chue took the drawing and looked at it carefully. The students had drawn the structure of the boys' temple according to a certain scale when they were surveying the area. They had marked the dimensions of the key areas. Those who knew the new engineering drawing method invented by Li Zixuan would be able to understand it at a glance. Yes, very good. Your judgment is right. Based on the height of the boys' temple and Dragon Mountain, it is completely feasible to build the telegraph relay station in the meditation room on the second floor. But where should we put the generator? Have you thought about Pang Sheng? After glancing through the drawing, Mo Chue nodded with a look of approval. Then, he asked another question. The telegraph machine needed electricity, and the telegraph relay station naturally needed electricity as well. And they definitely couldn't use batteries. After all, batteries could only provide limited endurance, so they could only place their hopes on a small power station. The construction of a hydroelectric power station required a lot of time and effort, so they had brought a small thermal power station from the academy. This was the first thermal power station in the history of the Tang Empire. Replying to Mr. Mo, regarding the thermal power station, it definitely can't be placed in a room, or else it will easily catch fire. We think that it should be placed in the backyard north of the boys' temple. The space there is spacious, and it is convenient for the Imperial Army to guard it. It is safer than placing it outside the boys' temple. The student named Pang Sheng replied, "Yes, you have considered it very thoroughly." Hearing this, Mo Chue nodded and praised. Since that's the case, immediately inform the members of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th groups to start preparing to build the thermal power station. When the time comes, remember to measure and adjust the voltage. Otherwise, if the voltage is too high, it will easily burn our machines. Yes. Pang Sheng and the others nodded and turned to leave. Mr. Mo Chue, how is the situation here? At this moment, Li Tai had also arrived at Dragon Mountain and walked up to Mo Chue's side to ask this question. After leaving the provincial governor's residence, he did not even return to the courier station. Instead, he rushed straight to Dragon Mountain with a dozen Imperial Army guards. At present, Taiyuan City was filled with soldiers from the Bing Province barracks. Li Tai was not worried that they would jump out to assassinate him at this time. If that really happened, he would be relieved. This was because although the Imperial Army around him was few in number, they were all highly skilled in martial arts. Even if they could not immediately defeat him, they could temporarily delay him. As long as they could delay him for a while, the soldiers in the city would definitely rush over to arrest him. Hearing the familiar voice behind him, Mo Chue was startled and quickly turned around. When he saw that it was Li Tai, he sighed in relief and said, "Pang Sheng and the others have completed the survey. We all think that we can directly build the telegraph relay station in the meditation room on the second floor of the boy temple. At this moment, I have Jia Jiayin and Li Yin lead people to build a thermal power station in the backyard of the boy temple." Hearing this, Li Tai's expression was faintly excited. "Good. It would be best if we can directly build the telegraph relay station in the meditation room on the second floor of the boy temple. This way, we can save a lot of work and a lot of time." However, this thermal power station was only a preliminary success in the workshop. Now that we want to put it into practical use, I'm afraid there will be some problems in the process. For the next 2 days, let's focus on making the thermal power station run smoothly. Chinke, your worries are not without reason. We'll do as you say. After we switch the thermal power generator this time, it will save us a lot of trouble next time. Mo Chue nodded. Then he frowned and asked with a worried expression, "By the way, Chinke, how is General Dugu's situation now?" In the morning, when he, Li Tai, Dugu Feiying, and the others went to Dragon Mountain, they were chased back by the Imperial Army. Therefore, Mo Chue knew about the assassination of Dugu Xen. However, to avoid causing panic, he did not tell the rest of the students. Chapter 1878. General Dugu has been poisoned. Fortunately, there is a doctor in Sourcepeak City with excellent medical skills. The poison in General Dugu's body was removed, and he is now out of danger. On Dragon Mountain, Li Tai's face was solemn as he spoke to Mo Chue. Poisoned? Is it that serious? It seems that the assassins came prepared and wanted to kill General Dugu. Sourcepeak City doesn't look safe. We must be more careful. Mo Chue's face turned cold when he heard this. Mo Chue was naturally clearly aware of how important Dugu Xien was to this group. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Dugu Xien was the guardian of their group. If Dugu Xien was killed, then the possibility of them returning safely from this trip to the north was extremely small. They had just arrived in Sourcepeak City, and Dugu Xien had been assassinated. Moreover, the other party had directly tried to kill Dugu Xien. It was hard to believe that the assassins' next move was not targeting them. So Mo Chue's heart was now filled with vigilance. Li Tai understood the meaning behind Mo Chue's words. He nodded and said, "The current Sourcepeak City is indeed treacherous and full of hidden murderous intent. However, Mr. Mo Chue, you don't have to worry too much. The provincial governor's office has already obtained some clues about the assassins. Just now, 10,000 soldiers from the Bing province barracks have entered the city and are working with the provincial government bailiffs and Wang family guards to search for the assassins. With such an inescapable net, even if they can't catch the assassins, I believe they won't dare to come out again. We only need to build the telegraph relay station in the shortest time possible. Then, we can leave Sourcepeak City and head to Yinzhou." Hearing this, Mo Chue's heart calmed down a little. He sighed lightly and said, "In this way, Sourcepeak City will be heavily guarded in the next few days. Everyone's safety will be guaranteed. Once we finish building the telegraph relay station, General Dugu's injuries will be more or less healed. At that time, I will be able to relax a little." Li Tai nodded and said, "Although Sourcepeak City is heavily guarded now, everyone still needs to be careful. According to the rules we set earlier, no one is allowed to act alone." Mo Chue nodded and said, "As it should be. I will remind the students a few more times." "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Mo Chue. The Cloud Mountain is surrounded by dense forests and numerous rocks. If we combine the changes of Taoism's 1 origin, 2 forms, 3 talents for symbols, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, 8 trigrams, 9 palaces, and 10 directions together with the mechanics of Moism, we can indeed trap those trespassers." At the foot of the Cloud Mountain, a delicate and pretty Taoist boy who was about 10 years old and dressed in a green Taoist robe gently tapped his forehead with his finger and then said with a serious expression. However, the words that came out of his mouth did not sound like something a child of his age would say. That's right. This little Taoist boy was the grandson of the Celestial Master Sect of Longhu Mountain, Zhangheng. In the morning, after the group from Dragon Tiger Mountain settled down in the courtyard of Cloud Mountain, they followed Xianqing and Mo Huai to the foot of Cloud Mountain to survey the terrain. Their main mission this time was to go down the mountain to gain experience. To be precise, they were going to the Tang Empire's Joint Medical Hall to gain experience. However, at this time, the Academy was building the mountain guarding formation, and Mo Huai had asked Xianqing for help. How could Xianqing not help? Therefore, helping the Academy build the mountain guarding formation became the first task of Xianqing, Zhang Heng, and the others after leaving the sect. "Huh, you have good eyesight. I was previously instructed by Taoist Li Chunfeng, and he also suggested this at that time. However, I and Taoist Li Chunfeng are not proficient in setting up formations, so we have to trouble the Celestial Master Sect with this matter." Hearing this, Mo Huai could not help but look at the little Taoist boy with slight surprise. He probably did not expect a little Taoist boy from the Celestial Master Sect to have such profound attainments in formations. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel more confident in the construction of the mountain-guarding formation of the academy. Xianqing looked at Zhang Heng lightly and did not say anything. Young people were somewhat arrogant and vain. Zhang Heng could read the Taoist canon at such a young age, so naturally, he wanted to show his talent in front of others. Xianqing did not say anything to stop him, because who had not been young and frivolous? Chapter 1879. Lord Guard. The soldiers of the Bing province barracks have already entered the city. They're working with the Yamen runners and the Wang clan guards to search every household in the city. They're only searching for weapons. It's said that the Yamen runners have a blueprint in their hands, and the weapons found in the houses will be compared to the blueprint. If the patterns are similar, the owner of the house will be captured and brought to the provincial governor's residence. It seems that the great Tang Yamen already knows that we've obtained weapons from Kong Chang'an. In the innermost room of Tongfu Inn's heavenly guest room, the tall man called Sky Eagle from before was solemnly bowing to the guard leader, who was not very handsome but always liked to hold a feather fan. There's no need to think. The Yamen must have already sensed that we've obtained weapons from Kong Chang'an. The middle-aged man waved the feather fan in his hand without the slightest hint of panic on his face as he spoke to Sky Eagle. It's all thanks to Lord Guard's wisdom to have our brothers bury the weapons in advance. Otherwise, none of us would have been able to escape this great search. The tall man called Sky Eagle clasped his hands, a look of relief on his face. It truly had been this Lord Guard who had ordered them to bury all their weapons and lay low for the next few days. They were not to come out unless there was something important. Now that he thought about it, this Lord Guard had truly had a certain amount of foresight in his arrangements. Keep a close eye on the people below. Don't let them rashly show themselves, especially Xianyi. This fellow has always thought highly of himself and likes to underestimate his enemies. We can't let him cause any trouble at this critical juncture. The Lord Guard frowned as he warned. This subordinate will do as you bid. Sky Eagle clasped his hands in acknowledgement. After a moment of hesitation, he tentatively asked, Lord Guard, may I ask what our next step is? The next step, the Lord Guard's eyes flashed, and after a moment of thought, he said, I've already sent a messenger pigeon back. Right now, we just need to wait for the Kaghan's reply and reinforcements. Until then, all of us will carefully hide in the city and wait for an opportunity to move. If we have the chance to capture 1 or 2 Yanhuang college students and teachers, that would be for the best. Of course, this is only the most ideal situation. What's most important is that we don't expose ourselves. With our current strength, we don't have the strength to face the great Tang authorities head-on. When Heavenly Eagle heard that, he cupped his fists and said with a solemn look, Lord Guard, rest assured, this subordinate definitely won't let the brothers be willing to be exposed. But right now, most of the people from Yanhuang College are in Longshan. They must have chosen a location there. Are we going to let them do whatever they want in Longshan? Lord Guard frowned and said indifferently, even if we want to interfere in this matter, I'm afraid we don't have the strength to do so. Right now, there must be a large number of soldiers guarding the Dragon Mountain. If we go there, I'm afraid we'll be walking right into their trap. Let's wait for 2 more days. Once our reinforcements arrive, we'll coordinate from the inside and the outside to completely take Taiyuan. Anyway, what Yanhuang College wants to build isn't something that can be completed in a few days. Heavenly Eagle nodded and cupped his fists as he said, Lord Guard is wise. This subordinate will pass down the order to all the brothers to be careful and lay low for the time being. Lord Guard waved his hand and said calmly, don't worry. Yes, go. If you don't have anything important to do in the next 2 days, don't come and see me. Chapter 1880. Dugu Xan was attacked by an assassin and almost died. Taiyuan City, the provincial governor's residence. Li Junxian had rushed over in a hurry, and when he learned from Wang Liaoyuan what had happened in Taiyuan City in the last 2 days, he couldn't help but be alarmed. When Lier had sent him to Taiyuan City to protect Li Tai's group. He had believed that this would be an easy mission. After all, Taiyuan City was a major city in the north of the Great Tang, and its security was naturally much better than that of a small county on the northern border. Moreover, Li Tai had 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers protecting him, so he would probably be in a lot of danger. But to Li Juanxian's surprise, the moment he arrived in Taiyuan City, the city was sealed and martial law was imposed. Then he heard from Wang Liang that Dugu XN had been attacked by an assassin and that there was a secret faction hiding in Taiyuan City. The situation in Taiyuan City was far more urgent than he had expected. This mysterious faction is far too crafty. They used bait to confuse us, and then by revealing that they had abandoned their son, they lured General Dugu to the southern part of the city, giving them a chance to strike. Fortunately, there was a famous doctor in Sourcepeak City who helped General Dugu escape from danger. This official has already ordered the Bing Province barracks to search the entire city for the assassins and strengthen the patrols in the city. Presumably, this group of people will go into hiding for a short period of time and won't dare to stir up trouble again. Wang Liaoyuan clasped his hands as he spoke to Li Junxian. He was also deeply surprised and shocked by Li Juanxian's arrival. Li Junxian was the commander of 100 cavalry, and this cavalry was Li Er's most trusted and elite force. Li Juanxian's arrival meant that Li Er was extremely concerned about Li Tai's safety. This placed Wang Liaoyuan under great pressure. After all, Li Er had given him 7 days to solve the case. Li Juanxian's arrival was a covert attempt by Li Er to put pressure on him. How was His Highness's safety? Does the mysterious faction in the city already know why His Highness and the students from Yanhuang College have come to Taiyuan City? Wang Liaoyuan's words did nothing to ease Li Juanxian's nervousness and wariness. He suddenly remembered something important and sternly asked. Although Li Tai's mission in Taiyuan was top secret, Li Junxian was one of Li Tai's most trusted subordinates, and he was also one of the commanders tasked with protecting Li Tai. He naturally knew about it. Thus, Li Junxian was well aware that if Li Tai's goal in coming to Taiyuan City was revealed, there was a high chance that the step would send people to sabotage, even assassinate them. There is no need to worry about His Highness King Wei's safety. As for why His Highness and the others have come to Sourcepeak City, even this official doesn't know. I presume that the mysterious faction in the city doesn't know either. Wang Liaoyuan pondered for a moment before replying. Li Junxian relaxed a little and clasped his fist. Since that's the case, this general will take his leave. Governor Wang, please keep the news of us coming to Taiyuan a secret. The enemy is in the dark. His Highness not only needs someone to protect him on the surface, but also in the dark. Wang Liaoyuan nodded. General Li, be at ease. This official will not mention your identities to anyone. But on His Highness's side, Li Junxian said, we will continue to protect His Highness from the shadows. When the time is right, we will naturally appear. Okay. Wang Liaoyuan naturally didn't dare to say more. Li Junxian clasped his fist and left with his men. Chapter 1881. No, grandfather. Grandson said to seek refuge with the Turks, not guardian Lord Zhao. In the study in the backyard of the Wang family's second branch, Wang Xinyuan shook his head and said lightly. Wang Ke, who was in a state of agitation and excitement, seemed to have been splashed with a basin of cold water and completely calmed down. He frowned and asked in confusion, Xinyuan, what do you mean by that? If we follow guardian Lord Zhao, isn't it the same as seeking refuge with the Turks? Xinyuan, are you thinking of? Wang Kue suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility and could not help but reveal a trace of fear between his brows. Under his gaze, Wang Xinyuan slowly nodded and said, Grandfather, 2 years ago, that person's surname Zhao was just a small official in a small county in Sangzhou. After seeking refuge with Xieli Khan, he suddenly changed and gained the respected status he has today. In fact, in terms of foundation and strength, our Wang family is not the slightest bit weaker than him. So why do we have to work under him? Why can't we completely replace him? As soon as these words came out, Wang Kuei's face could not help but reveal a trace of contemplation. Seeing this, Wang Xinyuan struck while the iron was hot and continued. This time, that person surnamed Zhao infiltrated Taiyuan City to get to the bottom of things is only for princely Tai of Wei and the teachers and students of Yanwang College. They're going to build a telegraph relay station in Taiyuan City, which is a great threat to the safety of the Turks. In the future, when the Great Tang and the Turks go to war, the Great Tang will be in an invincible position in terms of intelligence and information. That is why that person's surname Zhao spared no effort to destroy the telegraph relay station that Li Tai and the others are going to build. Right now, it is just that they do not have enough troops. If they have enough strength, he will immediately take action and help the Turks eliminate this great threat. Grandfather, think about it. If we destroy the telegraph relay station that Li Tai and the others are going to build without the help of the grassland headquarters, and even secretly leave behind the key machines and key people to build the telegraph relay station and then give them to the Turks, once the Turks learn of it, the Turks will definitely have a whole new level of respect for us and even put us in an important position. At that time, we will not have to work under that person's surname Zhao, but directly under the Turks. Isn't the day of meteoric success just around the corner? It was said that every man for himself, and the heavens and earth would destroy him. Wang Xinyan, on the other hand, would feel uneasy as long as he did not rebel. Not only did he want to rebel against the Great Tang, he also wanted to rebel against one of their leaders before even joining the opposing faction. He was truly a traitor who treated rebellion as a common occurrence. Wang Kuei's eyes brightened, but a moment later, he frowned and said, "Xi Yuan, your idea is certainly good, but with our strength alone, how are we going to destroy the telegraph relay station that Li Tai and the others are going to build? What's more, we're going to secretly hand over the key machines and key personnel to the Turks." Wang Xingyuan smiled and said confidently, "There's no need for grandfather to worry about that. Grandson has his own plan. Right now, no one knows that we have already learned of Li Tai's plan to come to Taiyuan. Therefore, they will not be on guard against us. I have already received the news that Li Tai and the others are going to build a telegraph relay station at Longshan. This morning, many teachers and students of Yanwang College went to Longshan. As far as I know, they came to Taiyuan this time with many important machines developed by the college. As long as we steal or destroy one or two of the key machines, the telegraph relay station will definitely not be built." Chapter 1882. This child is intelligent, ambitious, and scheming. Wang Yu has misjudged him. Wang Kuei couldn't help but sigh as he watched Wang Xinyuan leave. It's just that he's a little too smart. If he really was a child of the second branch, that would be great. In the end, Wang Kuei shook his head and said this without any reason. Wang Xinyuan's plan to rebel against Guardian Zhao was for his own good, but this act of rebelling against the Great Tang and then against Guardian Zhao left Wang Kuei a little uneasy. He was worried that Wang Xinyuan would one day break free from his control, and even more worried that Wang Xinyuan would one day betray him. "Wang Li, come in." After some time, Wang Kuei's complexion returned to normal, and he raised his head and called out to the door. Second elder, Wang Li, dressed in plain clothes, pushed open the door and entered. After closing the door, he cupped his fists and greeted Wang Kuei. "You should have heard what this old man said to Xinyuan just now, right?" Wang Kuei looked at Wang Li and indifferently asked. Yes, this subordinate heard it all. While Wang Xinyuan and Wang Kuei were talking in the study, Wang Li had been standing under the great banyan tree not far from the study. On the one hand, he had been keeping watch for the two in the room to prevent anyone from sneaking in and eavesdropping. On the other hand, this could be considered Wang Kuei's arrangement. Wang Kuei knew that as a Grandmaster Realm expert, Wang Li's hearing was sharper than ordinary people's. Even at such a distance, he would definitely be able to hear what was going on in the room. Since you've heard it all, this old man won't repeat it. Starting today, you and your subordinates must all obey Xin Yuan's orders. Xin Yuan's words are equivalent to this old man's words. All of you must strictly obey them. Understand? Wang Kuei sternly said. Wang Li's expression turned solemn as he bowed and cupped his fists. Second elder, be at ease. This subordinate will do our best to assist young master. This child is intelligent and ambitious. Wang Yu has misjudged him. Wang Kuei couldn't help but sigh as he watched Wang Xin Yuan leave. It's just that he's a little too smart. If only he were really a child of the second branch. In the end, Wang Kuei shook his head and said this without any reason. Wang Xinyuan's plan to betray Guardian Zhao was for his own good, but this betrayal of the Tang Empire and then of Guardian Zhao made Wang Kuei feel a little uneasy. He was worried that Wang Xinyuan would break away from his control one day, and even more worried that Wang Xinyuan would betray him one day. Wang Li come in. After an unknown period of time, Wang Kuei's complexion returned to normal. He raised his head and shouted toward the outside. Second elder, Wang Li, who was dressed in plain clothes, pushed open the door and entered. After closing the door, he stepped forward and cupped his fist towards Wang Kuei. You should have heard what I said to Xin Yuan just now, right? Wang Kuei looked at Wang Li and asked indifferently. Yes, this subordinate heard it all. While Wang Xinyan and Wang Kuei were talking in the study, Wang Li was standing under the great banyan tree not far from the study. First, he was keeping watch for the two in the room to prevent anyone from quietly sneaking in to eavesdrop. Second, Wang Kuei had intentionally arranged this because he knew that as a Grandmaster expert, Wang Li's hearing was sharper than ordinary people's. Even if he was so far away, he would definitely be able to hear what was going on in the room. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.